Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where OP's mother-in-law runs a criminal background check on him. Would I be the jerk if I broke off my engagement because my future in-laws ran a criminal background check on me? My fiance and I both live in the western US. We met during our senior year of college and we've been dating for the last few years. We're very much in love and our relationship has been incredible, and she's unlike any other person that I've ever known before. I proposed to her shortly before Christmas last year and she immediately accepted. We haven't been able to plan the wedding yet due to finances, but that hasn't been a concern for either of us. I'd met my fiance's parents a few times before proposing and they seemed like very nice people. They were polite, had a clean home, and overall I didn't see any red flags at all. We took both my parents and hers out to lunch last weekend and told them the big news. Everyone seemed so excited and it was a wonderful time. Today I go into work and I get a call from my fiance's mother. She told me that before I was going to marry her daughter, that she and her husband were going to run a criminal background check on me and to ask what afternoon I have free so that we can sit down together and talk about the results. This wasn't posed as a request, and I find this incredibly creepy. I've never had a criminal history, beyond a few traffic tickets, but I don't even know if those show up on a background check. But this sounds like a humiliating and gross violation of my privacy. I haven't talked to my fiance about this, but even if she does back me on this, I don't know what this says about their pattern of behavior in the future. Is this as creepy of a red flag as I think it is, or should I just accept it at face value as the grossest kind of shovel talk? Edit. A lot of people have rightly pointed out that I need to talk to my partner first before making any decisions. That's very true. I was just very shocked and upset at work when I made this post. When I came home, I talked to her and asked her if she knew anything about this. She said that she did not, and she was very confused why her parents would do this. I haven't sent any kind of reply to her mom, and when it does happen, it will be a statement that we make together. She's an only child, so going no contact has never been something that she's considered before. According to her, this is very out of left field. Before you break up, call your fiancé immediately and talk to her about her mother's request/demand and ask if she knew about it. Tell her you have nothing to hide, no criminal history, but that this is absolutely not going to happen. Ask her how she would feel if your parents had made the same request about popping around for coffee and character critique. Once you have her response, you can then take some time to work out if you want to be involved with her still. This is creepy, but probably not your fiance's fault. Why don't you say to your future in-laws that you'd love to sit down with them and your fiance and go over all 4 of your criminal records together? You would not be the jerk. You would be the jerk if you blindsided your fiancé by dumping her for something she might not even know about. Tell your in-laws you'll be happy to sit down with them, and during this discussion, you're going to need copies of all of their financial records to ensure that you won't be saddled with supporting them in their retirement and/or to see what kind of inheritance your wife can be expecting. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the in-laws? Please share your thoughts. I'd actually make up a fake one about myself with horrific things that I've done and mail it to them. Sometimes you just gotta mess with people, you know? Yeah, like when I say barbecue. Am I the jerk for divorcing my husband for putting a camera in our house to prove a point about me? It's been about a month since I, 46 female, found out that my husband, who's 47, had put a hidden camera in our living room to prove that I'm lazy. It was a small, disguised hidden camera inside what looked like a charging block. He stuck one in the living room outlet. We have 3 kids who are 16, 14, and 12 who all have a bunch of chargers, so I didn't think anything of it. The point my husband was trying to prove was that my administrative skills are not up to the super stay-at-home mom standards that he as a high earner deserves. This all started after a situation where my 12-year-old needed a permission slip signed and forms filled out in order to go on a class trip. I admit that things happened and we missed the submission deadline. I had made a note to fill out the forms on another day since it was a task I needed to be 100% focused on. But it became the start of a new month, and that's when I do most of the shopping and tracking of household bills and subscriptions. I do daily cleaning, but we use a service for deep cleaning and landscaping that I have to supervise. Long story short, my 16-year-old calls my husband after picking up her sister, saying that she was crying because she can't go on her trip. My husband drives to the school to beg them to let him fill out the forms in the office. Thankfully, they let him since it was the same day, and I apologized profusely. My husband, who's self-employed as an HVAC technician, started ranting about how he has so many calls a day but still handles the administrative aspect of his job communications and bookkeeping. I yelled back because his work is concentrated while my work at home has a bunch of moving parts and emotional labor as well, and I do it all behind the scenes. He digs his heels in about how I wasn't as busy and needed to do easy things better. A week later, he picks a fight about me not going that day to mail checks out to his employees when I could have done it the next day. He admits to the camera and starts citing proof of times I was on my phone, and that automatically equals goofing off. I was on my phone researching meals to fit my daughter's dietary restrictions while keeping her healthy as a ballet dancer. I was looking into subscriptions for frozen but healthy meals that she and the rest of us could have on the go or at home. The fact he took offense to me occasionally lying down when I was researching, or that I had taken a TV break before preparing dinner, did it for me. He knew that my days are crazy during the first days of the month, which was when the permission slip debacle happened. I kicked him out of the house. It's been a month, and friends have been saying that I'm missing the fact there are others out there who would not disregard the things I do to make being high-earning possible. I ended up seeing an attorney and just filed for divorce. Am I the jerk? Your youngest is 12. Most stay-at-home parents get a part-time job once their youngest is old enough to take on babysitting gigs themselves. In 2024, when most bill payments can be automated, what exactly are you doing that's so labor-intensive at the beginning of the month? Have you been screened for ADHD? You're the jerk, and here's why. Your daughter didn't call you for help sorting out the mess that you made. She called your husband at work, who sounds like the far more reliable partner and parent. The more I read your post, the more it sounds like you don't do anything near as much as you think you do. You have to supervise the paid cleaners and gardeners? You poor thing. You're Googling pre-made meal subscriptions? How hard is it for you to cook for your kids? Oh, but she does ballet, so she needs super special subscription meal services. BS. You don't keep on top of your kids' school requirements and essentially lost your daughter's chance to go on an important trip. And your husband saved the day while you sit there coming up with excuses about having to be 100% focused, but you still have time to have TV breaks? Are those TV breaks more important than your daughter? Apparently so. You say you have to do lots of emotional labor. Where's the recognition of his emotional labor? You also delay mailing out employee paychecks until the last minute out of spite, just like you leave your daughter's school trip. It sounds like you have a much higher opinion of yourself than anyone else, while downplaying everyone else's work and needs. I think the poor guy deserves a wife who doesn't spend her time feeling sorry for herself and coming up with excuses while he dashes around picking up the pieces. Is putting up a hidden camera in your home crappy? Yeah. Has your husband been bringing this up, and have you been telling him the same BS you've been spinning us? Even when you paint yourself as the victim in your own words, you sound awful. I bet he has some far worse stories to tell than you admit to. So if you're gaslighting him and this is what your life has come to, well, putting up a camera is less crappy than the way you treat your family. The fact that you keep coming back to edit incriminating details of your story, yet have not answered a single question is the nail in the coffin. You're altering the narrative and trying to gaslight us, and probably your husband too. OP, I have a question about one of your main complaints, which you've now edited out. When you were on the way to the post office already, and he asked you to send his employees checks, you know, the ones whose labor is what allows for you to be a stay-at-home mom, how many additional sheets of paper were you forced to carry? And were you able to make it home in time to watch someone else he pays to do your cleaning and gardening to make sure they do it properly? So you say you filed for divorce. Good, set him free. Let him find a woman who will love and support him. Wait until you see what your life is going to be like when that decree comes through and the money tap is turned off, and you have to work for a living to pay him child support, because those kids know who looks after them and isn't TikTok mommy. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for not giving my house to my sister-in-law? This happened 2 nights ago, and I'm still feeling some type of way about it. Background. I'm 30, female. My husband, who's 32, has a younger sister, who's 25. My sister-in-law is currently going through a divorce, and she has 4 kids. My husband and I also have 4 kids of our own. My husband and I live in a very quiet country back road in our little town, us and his family being the only residences on the road. So both his sisters and their families, and his parents, live within walking distance of our house. My husband and I have been married for 7 years, and we have 4 kids together. My husband bought the land we live on from his parents when he was 18, and when we got married, we built a house on it. We designed our house with a big family in mind and designed it to be our forever home. It's never been a thought to move or look elsewhere. My sister-in-law is going through a divorce. She's struggling to say the least. She was in a very toxic relationship with her ex, with her contributing just as much as he was, and he filed for divorce and moved out, leaving the 4 kids with her. My mother-in-law called my husband 2 nights ago and asked if we could come over for a chat. We get there, and my in-laws and sister-in-law are sitting on the couch like they were staging some kind of intervention. It was really strange. My mother-in-law didn't beat around the bush at all. She explained how sister-in-law's ex was getting the house in the divorce, and they would be homeless within the month if we didn't give her our home. It honestly took me a second to comprehend what she even said, because it was so out of left field. Husband didn't need that second and looked them dead in the eyes and said, "No." In-laws started telling us things like, "You guys don't need all that house. You guys can move into one of the new neighborhoods in town. You guys can just build a new house." I offered to open up our playroom and guest bedroom for them until they could find somewhere else to live. We have air mattresses and the guest room has a full bath, but that was not good enough apparently. That's when we got up and left. They began yelling after us, saying we don't care about their kids, family helps family, we're being greedy and selfish, etc. I'm honestly so proud of how we reacted, because my first instinct was to just go off and say some hurtful things, but instead we just went home to our home. We love sister-in-law's kids and obviously don't want them to be homeless, but they don't need my house at the expense of my own kids and family. I don't see why sister-in-law's family deserves my home. What about my kids? Now the in-laws are calling and texting, saying we don't care about the kids, we're selfish and greedy, we're making her homeless, and I'm wondering if maybe we were too quick to say no. So, am I the jerk for not giving my home to my sister-in-law? Not the jerk. You can't be making someone homeless when you have literally offered them space in your own home. Sister-in-law is making herself homeless by turning down offers of assistance because they aren't exactly what she wants. She's really the selfish and greedy one because she insists on displacing your family rather than humbling herself to live temporarily in someone else's home. But word to the wise, take your offer off the table. You've already seen they're willing to resort to anything to get you to bend or cave. They aren't interested in respecting you or treating you with dignity. When sister-in-law gets desperate, she may finally agree to your offer, but that doesn't mean the bullying will stop. Likely, it'll get worse, and she'll try to make your life miserable from within your own home until you're forced to consider kicking her out. And then the guilt trips will get 1,000 times worse, as you are now literally kicking her out onto the street. Instead, call her bluff. We are very disappointed with how little respect this family has for our family, our kids, and our own home. In light of this, the previous offer to open up the playroom to sister-in-law is no longer on the table, as we feel it would be a mistake to try and share space with someone who clearly has no respect for us. Tree Company bought land across from us and created a dumping ground for thousands of dead, diseased trees. The hill across the street is now covered in dead branches, logs, and trees. The trees that were native to the area seem to be dying as well. This hill used to be all trees full of wildlife. We would see foxes, coyotes, and birds. Now it's all destroyed. It's the view from our house, so what was a mountain of woods is now a mountain of diseased trees that they continue to dump every day. Commenter: sounds like pretty standard logging pile. Welcome to rural life, where stuff like this happens. It's not a complaint item for most folks who live in areas where timber is produced. OP, we're not even in the country. We're literally in a suburb/city. This is almost certainly legal. This is what you have to do in order to log an area to create a subdivision or build several houses to sell. This sounds like a typical logging operation. OP, it's a tree cutting service that's doing this. They're not logging to create a subdivision. They're using this to dump the dead and diseased trees that they cut. They're actually dumping trees that they cut from their service. They do a job for someone, cut down a dead or unwanted tree, and guess where it ends up? My backyard. They're dumping there so that they don't have to pay to do it and save money, but it's a huge hazard and issue. They're not casually clearing land to maybe sell or expand, it's just a dump site. Update: a city inspector did come out and admitted that they do not have permits and where they're dumping is residential. Also found out that they're being paid by other tree cutting companies to dump theirs as well. The city inspector did not seem like they would be much help, to be honest. So I drafted up a long, factual, and research-based email, and I sent it to everyone I could think of that could help. The EPA, fire marshal, government officials, news, even neighbors. One news station responded asking to talk to me on Monday. One thing I compared it to was a natural waste landfill that caught on fire and burned for 4 months straight, and the EPA had to step in and declare an emergency. Not sure what this will lead to, but I'm hoping something gets done. Well, the city does not seem to be interested in really helping. I emailed everyone I could think of that could help, hoping my email wasn't too long, but I was just trying to state factual evidence of how this was serious. My main focus was the fire hazard, groundwater contamination, vermin and vectors, tree disease, and how they're spreading it. You're probably going to have to be persistent with this. OP. Yeah, I think so too. This company seems to be buying up properties and houses all around my neighborhood and has been doing this for years now. Apparently, they are very friendly with local officials, so I believe if anything actually gets done, it will probably be from a federal level. Update 2. This will be my final update. The news did do a story on this. I had a family member do the interview because I really did not want to be on the news myself. So it turns out this is a private green waste. It's an unregulated waste site that has been created by a tree trimming company. They don't have to follow any regulations and they are not monitored. 12 states have already banned these types of sites. My state is like the Wild West, so basically nothing can or will be done unless there's an actual law change. I kind of feel like an idiot, but I do appreciate the support and helpful advice that everyone gave. At least I learned a few things along the way, and I think the news did show the negative impacts these places have on the surrounding areas because they are not regulated at all. This seems like a fire hazard. OP. It definitely is. Apparently, methane gas gets trapped underneath these and they will eventually catch fire, but apparently my state doesn't care. Here in California, it all gets ground into mulch. There's a massive mulch shortage, and landscapers have to wait for long periods. This is a hazard and a waste. OP. Yes, I agree. The company made a statement saying that they are contributing positively to the environment, but I really think it's about laziness and greed for them. They also blamed another landfill for stirring up a commotion, but it was me. I was the commotion. What exactly is the problem here? OP. There's so much wrong here. They created an unregulated landfill, so it traps methane gas and it will eventually catch on fire. Pesticide or plant-killing chemicals can linger and run off with rain. And there's water at the bottom of this that connects to a river that supplies drinking water. And really the only animals that would want to live here would be vermin, and then higher concentrations of ticks and other vectors. Animals would not want to live in a massive pile of dead trees with heavy machinery operating next to it. Also, these are dead trees, and some have disease that spread with wind and kill native trees and plants in the area. I think the bigger picture here is these sites are not regulated. They throw the term green waste on them to give the impression that they're great, but it's all about greed and destruction, and it's lazy. It's like the Wild West for companies like this to make a huge profit and create a huge hazard, and no hoots are given. There was already a state emergency from a green waste site not that far away. This is maddening. It might be a small local problem, but it's indicative of a much bigger issue. We only have one planet. I wish instead of wasting money trying to find another planet we could inhabit, that money would be used to care for this one. What's more maddening is the number of commenters who are like, "Why are you mad? There's nothing wrong with this." Goodness gracious. In their world, this is fine. It's just capitalism operating at default parameters. As long as the numbers keep getting bigger, everything is working as intended. The fact that it seems nothing will be done until it literally catches on fire is ridiculous. I feel so bad for OP. I'm also tempted to say a lit match should get dropped there before it gets even worse. But if there's suddenly a fire, eyes will totally go to the person who was warning about it and seeking help to stop it. Did this commenter just imply that starting a huge wildfire could be an actual solution? Yes, Karen. Welcome to Reddit. My partner lost all of our money on crypto. Last night, while I, 22 female, was asleep, my partner drained every cent from our bank accounts and sank it into cryptocurrency. In mere moments, our savings vanished into thin air. This isn't the first time. Previously, he made a similar gamble with a smaller sum, which also dissipated, leaving us in an unstable financial state. Back then, he had hid the failure from me for a week and lied about the money we had. When I found out, he gave a heartfelt apology and a promise to never repeat such recklessness. However, history has repeated itself. We've been living on a single income, as I've taken on the role of the sole breadwinner to support his career transition. His previous job was a nightmare, affecting his health severely. So when he resigned, I stepped up, managing our finances and even teaching him English in the evenings to help with his studies. We were close to paying off our debts, but now we're plunged back into financial despair. Our savings are gone, and all we have left is a mere $80 in cash. When confronted, he admitted to acting out of anxiety following a recent argument, hoping a bold financial move might improve our situation. He's now finally agreed to get therapy and offered to start looking for work to replenish our lost funds over the next few months. I'm overwhelmed with stress, struggling to process this betrayal and its consequences. How do I move forward from this? How can I ever trust him again with our finances, let alone our future together? Why are you giving this man so much access to your finances? He's going to leave you poor. Pretty sure he already did that. I don't like to point out the obvious, but moving on from this would be moving away from him. This is the second time he's done this. Why are you still with him? According to Google, there are 4 billion men on Earth. You don't need to keep choosing this one. If you're lonely, buy a cat or a dog or a gerbil. They may drain your money, but they'd make you a heck of a lot more happy. Well, what do you think? Should OP leave her boyfriend over this or not? Please let us know.
Hey, it could be worse. You could have bought 250 Bitcoin in 2011 for $0.25 apiece because your friend on the World of Warcraft forums kept telling you to do it. But then you lost it all the next year when you accidentally sent it to the wrong address.
That's oddly specific, Karen. Did that actually happen to you?
If it had, I would have lost my mind by now. I'd probably sit here all day talking to myself, pretending to be two different people.
Entitled mom completely loses it on a Starbucks employee. Cast. We've got me, and we've got my mom. Unfortunately, she's a Karen. And we've got the nice coffee lady. I'm still so sorry. So, some background. My mom has always treated service workers really poorly. It's to the point where I won't go to sit-down restaurants with her anymore, and neither will my sister. She especially is unkind to women. However, she's been having self-esteem issues because her new husband used to be married to a younger, super attractive girl, and I don't think she feels good enough for him. She's constantly bringing up his ex-wife, but also gets upset when anyone else brings this woman's name up. It's bizarre. Point being, I've noticed she's been extra rude to young, attractive female service workers. Now, y'all know how it is at Starbucks. They're really friendly and happy-go-lucky workers, at least in my area. I've never met a rude Starbucks barista. So I'm visiting town, and my mom wants to get her daily coffee, and we go to her Starbucks. She won't go elsewhere, by the way. The lady at the front counter is really beautiful, and I just know this isn't going to go well. Worker. Hi, welcome to Starbucks. What can I get started for you? My mom.
I want a grande Pike Place with cold soy and cream and a strawberry refresher.
Worker. A Pike Place with cold soy and cream? It's a strange order, so I don't blame her for wanting to clarify. My mom.
That's what I said. Yes. Can you understand?
Worker. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I was getting your order right. Coming right up. Have an awesome day. My mom, in a mocking tone.
Have an awesome day, jerk.
At this point, I start to apologize for my mom because I'm so embarrassed, and that poor lady did not deserve any of that. The manager has overheard everything, and my mom is told to leave and not come back. Sitting in the car. Me. What the heck is wrong with you? My mom.
That lady had a fake tone. I hate when service workers are purposely overly nice and fake. Just like, be a real person.
Me. They have to be overly nice, Mom. It's part of their job. If you don't like it, go elsewhere. Mom.
Well, I'll just have to train them to be normal.
According to my sister, my mom has attempted to go back twice and was told the police would be called if she goes again. Speaking of Starbucks, what's your favorite thing to get at Starbucks? Please let us know.
I could go for a coconut frappuccino right now.
Entitled stepdad makes me destroy my turntable and has me sent to a psychiatric facility. Hey everyone, here's a bit of backstory. This story happened when I was 16, about 2 years after my mom married my stepdad. We'll call him Michael. However, there's some essential stuff that is important to this story. I have several minor mental conditions, depression, anxiety, and a few others, but for the most part, I'm okay. However, the one condition I do have that sort of makes things a bit difficult is I have high-functioning autism, which Michael didn't believe was a real thing for some reason. This becomes important later. My mom and Michael got married after only 2 months, and without me even knowing until about a month after it happened when my grandma told me. This guy was a textbook definition of a narcissist and a manipulator. My mom had been divorced many years before she met him, so he used her fear of being alone to force her to stay with his sorry butt. He didn't even have a job due to being disabled from a stroke, which he extorted for every ounce of pity he could. There are many stories I could have posted about that, unfortunately. He never made much of an effort to get closer with me or my older brother, who was about to move out at that time. His philosophy was basically, "This is my house now, so stay out of my way." However, with that, he loved to control how everything was done, what I did and when. I wasn't allowed to leave the apartment complex I lived in or hang out/go out with friends because "you have no reason to, so drop it." And dating was a major no-go. Something about me that he despised was my love of rock and metal music, anything from Zeppelin to Pantera. He was devoutly religious and believed that kind of music was evil. However, my mom managed to convince him to let me continue listening to it. The turntable that I had in my room was a gift from my grandma a few years prior and was basically my prized possession. He was livid at the fact that I was able to play that filth in what he thought was his house. Eventually, things came to a head when I lied to him about sneaking out to meet a friend at the 7-Eleven about a block from my apartment complex. He was completely livid, probably the most angry I had seen him up until that point. He told me to grab my baseball bat out of my closet and to put the turntables and all my records, about 40 in total, on the floor. He then made me destroy the turntable and all of my records with the bat. I tried protesting this, but he told me if I didn't, he would punish me even worse, so I eventually caved and did as he said. He then took the turntable speakers for God knows what purpose and made me sweep up the broken pieces of vinyl and plastic. After that, I became far more spiteful towards him, as well as spiraling mentally. We had several heated arguments about things I had done to try and get around his strict rules, usually ending up with him egging me on to hit him, if I was man enough. He was a really big dude and rather threatening, despite not being able to use his left arm. Being a scrawny 16-year-old, I obviously didn't have a chance, so I backed down every time to his delight. He would occasionally throw a punch to scare me, but luckily he only got me a few times. My mom would try and stop him, but he would always find some way to talk her down. She didn't have much of a choice in the matter in her mind. Eventually, we got in a heated argument during dinner one night. I'm not sure about what anymore, and I threatened him. Looking back, I see how stupid of an idea that was, but being a stupid kid, I didn't have that foresight. He, of course, called the police and had me admitted into a psychiatric behavior facility very shortly after because he thought I was an unstable kid who needed to learn proper respect. I stayed in that facility for a total of 7 months, and I don't know if you've ever had experience with a place like that, but I can say to avoid it at all costs. Michael had all contact with family cut, so I had no one to talk to for 7 months except for the staff who didn't give a crap and the other residents who weren't the best people to be around in general. Eventually, it was decided that going back with them wasn't an option, so my mom eventually gave up custody of me and had me placed into foster care after I was discharged. Luckily, the home I was put in was with a very caring family who helped me get past a lot of those lingering issues that came from the whole ordeal. And since then, I've been able to make my own for myself, and I'm currently in university thanks to help from my foster family. However, my mom and stepdad are still married, and according to my grandma, he's still just as much of a jerk. Hopefully, mom will get some sense and leave him, but for now, it seems like she's unwilling. Have you or anyone you know ever had a step-parent treat you horribly? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. This isn't your pizza, ma'am. In our area, there are no zoning laws, so we have a homeowners association. That way, a bar can't be built next door to your dream house. You pay an annual fee, and there are amenities like maybe a park and a pool. The homeowners association contracts with a company for lifeguarding and pool cleaning to avoid liability. Cast. We've got LG, my daughter, the lifeguard. We've got the other lifeguards working that day. We've got Karen. She's lived here forever and is getting you fired. We've got Karen's husband. We've got Junior, Karen's 4-year-old son, and we've got the innocent family. Setting. It's a beautiful summer morning in Pool Wonderland. Kids are laughing and splashing, and several lifeguards, including my daughter, sitting on her throne of peace and tranquility. Pool Wonderland has some new rules this summer. 1. No going down the water slide with anyone in your lap. And 2. No non-swimwear in the pool. If you happen to require a head covering of any kind, it must be swimwear material. This is an important detail for later. Scene 1. Karen.
Hubby, take Junior down the water slide.
Karen's husband. Sure thing. Lifeguard atop the slide. Sorry, sir. No kids riding in your lap. We do apologize. It's a new rule this year. Karen's husband. Hey, no problem. Junior. Disappointed, but not an unruly little thing. Karen.
What the heck? That's rude.
Junior begins to cry as I assume this tone signals to Junior that once again, mommy is gonna lose it. Karen's husband. It's no big deal. Karen. Now addressing lifeguard.
Why can't my son go down the water slide with his dad?
Lifeguard explains the rules and Karen doesn't like it but complies in a huff. Scene 2. Innocent family shows up and orders pizza. They have a small family birthday party which was scheduled in advance with tables reserved. Many of the women are wearing what I understand to be Muslim swimwear, appropriate fabric for the pool, and covers much of them, including a hijab. Please don't jump on me if anything I said was ignorant or incorrect about the religion or the names I used. I'm merely trying to paint a picture. I mean no offense and hope none is taken, but polite corrections and constructive comments are always welcome. Innocent family decides to get in the pool. Karen also gets in the pool wearing a t-shirt and some shorts. Lifeguard. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you will have to get out of the pool. You can't wear that in the water. Karen.
Excuse me? I pay for the privilege to swim here, and you cannot tell me what to wear.
Lifeguard. It's a new rule this year. We can't allow people to wear cotton fibers in the water because it messes up the plumbing. Karen.
What about them?
She says, disgustedly referring to the ladies in the innocent family.
If I have to get out, so do they.
Lifeguard, now realizing what kind of person she's dealing with. Ma'am, they are wearing swimwear. You are not.
We'll see about that.
At this point, Karen is now being told by the lifeguard supervisor on duty the same thing. Nice try, Karen. Scene 3. Pizza arrives. There are 4, and drinks and breadsticks. Karen gets up and takes the pizza, which was paid for already, I imagine as no money changed in hands, not even for a tip. Karen juggles all this to her table and sticks her legs in the water on the side of the pool. Another pizza arrives, and the innocent family is approached by a lifeguard as they were expecting a delivery. Innocent family says, no, that isn't ours. We ordered 4 pizzas and drinks and breadsticks from not that pizza place. Lifeguard looks around and sees 4 pizzas and drinks and breadsticks on Karen's table. Lifeguard tells innocent family, I bet I know who this belongs to. Let me help you. She's thrilled after Karen has been such a nasty jerk. She didn't even say anything. Lifeguard walked to the table, set the pizza down, and helped the innocent family carry the 4 pizzas and drinks and breadsticks. Karen.
Excuse me? Where do you think you're going with our food?
Lifeguard. This pizza isn't your pizza, ma'am. She has the order on her phone matching the pizza place and this order. Your pizza was delivered a moment ago and on your table. Karen glances back in confusion, covering her embarrassment. It wasn't even the same delivery place. With pure rage now, yelling at Lifeguard and demanding the police be called. Lifeguard. Why would you call the police?
You have been harassing me all day, and I know you've been staring at us. I have lived here for years, and I'm going to the HOA board to have you fired.
Lifeguard laughs nervously and turns and walks back to her stand. My daughter has bad anxiety, and for years she's perfected a stonewall exterior where you think she doesn't care, but she will cry later because she's human. Karen trailing behind her and yelling now. Karen proceeds to use her phone camera to video my daughter, hoping to catch her doing what? I don't even know. She's literally paid to watch and scan patrons of the pool. That's most of your dang job as a lifeguard. By the end of the day, the police have been called because Karen insisted the staff was out of line. Karen's disruptive behavior has actually bothered other patrons, mostly the innocent family, as ugly comments about swimwear were overheard and made them uncomfortable. It was following guards and taking cell phone video that actually got Karen and her family kicked out. Not to mention, it's ludicrous to be distracting a first responder from their job. Karen did not return to the pool for the remainder of the summer. Not because she was banned. Hopefully, she went home and looked in the mirror and was too embarrassed by her behavior. Speaking of pools, have you been swimming yet? And if not, are you planning on going soon? Please let us know. The best thing about pools is that you don't have to get out to use the bathroom. Is complaintement a word? I manage a running specialty store. Our return policy is pretty standard. Within 30 days unworn, all sale items final sale. But I basically always give store credit to customers who want to return a sale item, even though strictly speaking that's against the rules. That's still not good enough for some people. This particular lady, we'll call her PA, short for police adjacent, for reasons that will become clear, comes in one day and demands to speak with the manager. Always a good sign. She tells me that the last pair of shoes we sold her were way too big and completely wrong for her feet, that my staff member lied to her, and that she wants a full refund. She's carrying neither shoes nor a receipt. I ask PA if she has a receipt with her, and she says of course not, as she bought them several months ago and has long since thrown out the receipt. I explained that our return policy is 30 days. She says we have injured her with our poor advice and we should refund her, or we should replace the shoes with something better. I ask what model she purchased, and when she tells me, I think, well geez, that's a regular price shoe that we will stock, so if they're unworn, I'll do an exchange, and or give her store credit just to get rid of her. Note that we make clear to customers that unworn actually means no visible wear, so it's totally fine to wear them around your house for a bit to make sure they're good. I ask her if she's worn the shoes outside, and she looks at me like I'm an idiot. Of course she's worn them outside. How else would she know if they work for her? I explain, again, our return policy and say that I'm sorry, but as it's been more than 30 days and she's worn them outside, there's nothing I can do. Her anger has been simmering since she walked in the store, and now it's begun a cascading nuclear meltdown. She starts yelling at me, first telling me that my staff member lied to her that a particular model of shoe didn't come in a specific variant. We carry that model, but not the variant. So I explain with as straight a face as I can muster that while my staff are experts in the shoes we carry, that they can't possibly know everything about every shoe on the market. Then repeatedly saying that her sister is a cop and she's going to be telling said sister about her treatment by our store. I think this was supposed to be a threat, but it was such a complete non sequitur that I again had to struggle not to laugh. Somewhere in this process, I look up her purchase in the computer and find not only did she buy these shoes 5 months ago, not the 1 or 2 she claimed. They are not the current models she claimed and were in fact last year's, which were on sale. She bought them during one of our biannual blowout sales, which are the only times we enforce the all sale items are final sale rule. We put signs up and mention it to all customers before they pay. She still hasn't actually produced the shoes she wants to return. We have exactly 1 till in the store, and at this point, I have other customers wanting to pay. I offer to have my area manager give her a call, but she refuses to leave her contact information and instead wants his. Sorry ma'am, we don't give that information out, was apparently the incorrect answer. She mentions her sister is the cop again. The waiting customers are getting fidgety and uncomfortable, completely reasonable. And the staff member, we'll call her SM for store mom, who had helped them, it's just us 2 working that day, comes over to see what's going on. Store mom is in her 50s, has been working here longer than anyone else, and is very protective of those of us who are on the younger side. I'm in my early 30s. Me being her manager has no bearing on these facts. PA sees store mom, immediately assumes she's more in charge, ignores me completely, and begins her complaint from the beginning. By the way, in case you were wondering, her sister is a cop. While disparaging me and my atrocious customer service, store mom has big mom vibes and is usually extremely patient and kind, but I can see that PA is bringing out her mama bear side. I quickly let her know that I can handle it and send her away. I tell PA again that I unfortunately cannot return her, as yet unseen, shoes, and that if she'd like to leave her information, our area manager will give her a call. She completely ignores me and restarts her complaint cycle. I interrupt her. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but there's nothing I can do. If you don't want to leave your information, you can also try calling customer service. I can write the number down for you if you'd like. Right now, though, I'm going to have to ask you to move away from the counter as I have other customers waiting to pay." She leaves, yelling and grumbling. Cut to a week later, and my area manager calls me out of the blue to tell me that a customer has called customer service to complain about me. To my great delight, customer service was closed when she called, so she had to leave a voicemail. My area manager plays it for me. In short, PA has the same baseless complaints as she did in our store. Her sister is still a cop and will still hear about this, and she received horrible customer service from the apparent manager who was like 18 years old and will never be shopping at any of our stores again unless they fix this problem for her. The manager was like 18 years old? I'm in my early 30s. I'd like to thank my good genes and my skincare routine for this great honor. Anyways, we didn't do the return. She never came back to our store, and when I'm feeling down about how I look, I stand in front of the mirror and quote her, and it never fails to give me a confidence boost. Oh yeah, and did I mention her sister is a police officer? Have you ever tried to return something but found out you couldn't? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. I've been through this too many times to count, and I've reported more managers to corporate than I can remember. Karen, I'm stressed and can't help you with your photos. We've got Karen, we've got me, and we've got my girlfriend. Everything started with my girlfriend and me rushing into a decoration store and afterwards to a famous store, known for mostly hygienic stuff, shampoo, lotion, etc., to get a little present for a friend. As a side note, everything takes place in Germany. Because of what's going on, we're only allowed to go into the market with masks. So we went inside the hygienic store after waiting 10 minutes to get a card and went straight to the photo printer. Of course, all three of them were occupied. After again 10 minutes and running short on time, we had around 15 minutes left. We could print our photos. Sadly, the first machine had some kind of problem with the photos, so we changed to another one, which had the same problem. So third time's the charm, and the last machine was good. My girlfriend and me stood there and minded our own business to get everything settled fast until one family stood near us with a kid who was about 4 to 6, strapped with some kind of blanket to the back of the mother. The kid was screaming so loud and the parents just ignored it, but everyone around them was visibly annoyed. Girlfriend started to get a headache because of it. Girlfriend, I can't wait here. My ears are gonna explode soon. Can I go away and get some tights? Me, sure, I'm gonna handle all the photos here. This was probably some kind of signal for Karen. As soon as girlfriend went to get her stuff, she started to whisper something. Karen, what kind of photos? Where is it? How? She was standing alone there and talking to herself. Nothing that special. I do the same thing sometimes. Then she started to talk louder, and me doing my stuff and clearly not minding her was the trigger. She stepped forward to me and said, I know you heard me. Help me here. Me, I'm sorry. Could you wait a bit? How long should I wait? I just want to print out my photos, and I can't connect my phone to that stupid machine. Me, looking at her machine, seeing that she hasn't even pressed the button and was still on the home screen. Me, you have to press here and then on photos, and afterward just click on mobile and connect it through cable. After that, I went back to my machine and started to print some of my photos. Karen started to get visibly angry at me and started to talk to me like I didn't understand her. I want to connect my phone. Do it! At this point, I'm getting annoyed. I'm looking at her screen again, and she didn't do anything again. There was just a window with two options, Android and Apple. I looked at her phone, pressed on Android, and the only thing she had to do were some clicks on her phone and connect the cable. Girlfriend returned. Girlfriend, I have everything. Are the photos done? Me, no, this lady asked for help, and I'm trying to. Girlfriend starts to talk in another language to me. Girlfriend, I think you didn't see it, but she didn't do anything. She only wants you to do all her stuff. I told Karen politely that I have to do my things now and that I'm in a hurry. She started to get furious, looked back at me and her machine for about 3 minutes. Then she left the machine with some big steps and visibly very angry. Afterwards, I checked the machine and she did nothing again, so girlfriend was totally right. We finished our photos and went to the checkout. Lesson of the story, don't be a Karen and don't let other people do your stuff because of your laziness. Has anyone ever tried to force you to do something for them? Please let us know.
Sometimes we just need help.
Pizza delivery to a rude, nasty, rich lady while I was 8 months pregnant. I worked at pizza place with a red hat logo as a driver while I was very, very pregnant. I had ordered a new work shirt as I had gotten way too big in the belly to have my shirt cover my belly bump. My watermelon-style belly was getting rather round due to all the frozen pizza I was getting from my managers that wanted to help me grow a baby better. Well, I was allowed to wear a plain black t-shirt as long as I had my name tag and hat on until a new shirt arrived the next day. I had gotten a delivery run in the very rich area of a town called Feather Sound. At first, I was really happy because this area was known for its great tips. And when you are a driver, you want all the tips you can get because you are not reimbursed for your fuel costs, except $1 a run minimum. And this was during a time where gas prices were the worst we had seen in like 8 years. These people had ordered a huge amount of food, 15 boxes of medium pizzas altogether. They had a sale on medium pizzas at the time. I walked up to the door first with no pizza to make sure I got the right address and to see if anyone would want to help grab so many boxes, as I was rather obviously fat with a baby. I get to the door and the almost typical Karen woman, minus the blonde hair and instead had black Dorothy Day-like hair, answering it almost yells at me before I can speak.
Who are you? Who invited you to the party?
Very rudely. I hesitate for a split second in a bit of shock and say, "Sorry ma'am, I had to order a new work shirt, but I'm your delivery driver, Liz, for your pizza order." She states to me rudely, but not as bad,
But where is the pizza then? And why are you pregnant?
She said that last word with some disgust in her voice. I said as nicely as I could at first, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry for any confusion, but since it was such a large order, I wanted to check to see if this was the right door, and to see if possibly someone could help me carry the 15 boxes up to your lovely home." It was a McMansion with a long walk from the curb to the front, and I had a small oil leak in my car and didn't want to even dare ask to use her pristine drive. And I am pregnant because, well, it happens when you get married. I said the last sentence a tiny bit condescending as she was scowling at me. She then started to go on a long diatribe of how she was not going to help me or have anyone help me, as
Pregnant or not, it is your job to serve me. And how nothing better be eaten, or I will call and get you fired.
I got really sick of her attitude, and my feet were hurting from being on them all day in my current condition. So I just said, "No problem," and walked to her car while she was still talking. I know she was technically in the right, but it doesn't hurt to see if someone doesn't have a heart or possibly a spare kid to lend for a few minutes to get everything taken care of faster. I decided to be a bit of a jerk and stack all 15 pizzas and walked carefully to the door so I could get away from her as fast as I could. She was standing there, realizing I had enough of her, with her arms crossed, and stood away from the doorway and said,
Put them on the table inside, now.
I realized that she was just being a jerk, as I saw many kids about 12 to 15 that could have helped out or at least gotten them from the door to the table, as there was a policy that we were to never enter a home due to risks of getting mugged or attacked. I didn't want to fight her at this point and wanted away from her, so as I passed her into the home, I said, "Ma'am, it is policy that we don't enter the house, but since this is just too many to try to take out of my arms, I will quickly do it." This turned out to be the best thing, because as I got to the table, her sweet husband saw me from the kitchen and he realized what was going on, as his wife had started complaining again about poor service and stating again that
Your pregnant self better not have eaten any of my kids' food.
once I gave her the receipt and the total when I got back to the door. Her husband got really red in the face, and as she started to hand me a check, which I could see that she had left me literally 5 cents as a tip, he grabbed it from her quietly, read the amount, and gave her a face that said, "Shut up, Karen." He then proceeded to hand me in cash the cost of the food and a $50 tip. She was silent as this happened and kept her head low, and one of the kids then said, "Wow, that is so much pizza, Mommy. Why did you have her take it all up? We could have helped. Like last time we had a party and we helped that old man." This statement got her really bugged out eyes, as I just smiled and thanked them both for ordering with our pizza place. As the door shut, you could see that her husband was glaring at her, and her eyes were the size of dinner plates. As I got to the car, I could hear the faint stern voice of the husband, which sounded like he was laying into her. When I got back to the restaurant, apparently the husband had called to apologize to the nice pregnant woman for his horrible wife's treatment, as she always gets nasty to pregnant women as she had to adopt all of her kids. What a nice husband, dude. I hope she learns not to be such a jerk to ladies just because they are with child and she is unable to birth a child. I do respect her for adopting at least more than one kid, not to mention adopting even one. I got some much needed baby items with that $50 just despite her rudeness. Speaking of pizza, what's your favorite place to get pizza from? Please let us know.
I could go for some Little Caesars right now.
Karen is sick and tired of eating takeout. Karen gets arrested. This happened about 5 to 6 weeks ago, but I just heard the story firsthand yesterday. A fellow restaurant owner in my area was doing takeout/delivery right now. When restaurants in our state were told we could open up for dine-in at 25%, he decided, as did I and many others, to not open as it just wasn't worth it. All orders at his place, be it a delivery service or customer picking up a takeout order, was done outside. Nobody except employees were allowed inside. Orders were taken outside to the parking lot by an employee. This happened a few days after the 25% was announced. Enter Karen and her not Karen friend. They drive up and get out of the car. Employee is delivering a takeout order and sees Karen and Karen's friend. Tells them the restaurant is not open for dine-in. Karen is not happy. Proceeds to scream how sick and tired she is of eating takeout, and they will serve her and her friend now. Employee tells her that that is not going to happen. Karen kicks him in the leg. Employee manages to still get in front of her so she can't get in the door. Karen doubles down and stomps on his foot. The owner witnessed the initial kick and subsequent stomp, tells an employee to call 911 while he runs out to help the employee. Karen, not knowing the police are already being called, screams to her friend to call the cops. Karen's friend has done nothing. She is frozen in place in the middle of the parking lot, not believing what she's witnessing from Karen. Karen is still trying to get in the door, but can't as the employee she assaulted has fallen in front of the door. This would have been a good time for Karen and her friend to leave. Cop shows up, and Karen thinks he is there to order the owner to let her and her friend eat in. Oh, delusional Karen. Cop tells her he's there for a reported assault. Cop calls for an ambulance as a second cop shows up. Karen starts screaming that the employee is faking his injury as a third cop rolls up. Karen screams that she was the one assaulted by everyone within a quarter-mile radius. Typical Karen crap. Ambulance shows up and starts treating employee. Owner invites one of the officers inside. Meanwhile, outside, Karen demands to leave. Nope, not happening. She has to stay while this is being investigated. Owner has cameras inside and outside. Karen's tirade is all on camera, including the person who is getting his food delivered by the employee. He had his camera rolling and got audio of Karen in all her glory. When told she could not leave and was going to be arrested, Karen reacts by screaming and pinching the cop on the arm so hard he had a bruise. Karen's friend never moved during all of this. Owner said her eyes looked like tennis balls bugging out of her head. She was allowed to leave as she did nothing wrong. Employee had 2 broken toes. Yup, raging Karen stomped that hard. Karen was handcuffed, put in a police car, and taken to jail, screaming all the way how she would have everyone's badge. Again, typical Karen crap. All of this because she was sick and tired of eating takeout. One of the cops came by the restaurant the next day to ask about the employee. He told the owner how in the last month or so, there was an uptick in people getting arrested, banned from businesses, trespass orders, who have never been in trouble with the law, in the age group of approximately 55 to 70 years old. Yup, Karen, 58 years old, had never been arrested, no problems at all, will likely serve some time in jail as well as being sued by the employee. Their reasoning? They are frustrated over what's been going on. Speaking of takeout, what's your favorite place to get takeout from? Please let us know.
She did nothing wrong. I'm sick of eating takeout too.
Entitled mom and entitled kid put everyone in danger for a video. Hiya! So this happened exactly 5 hours ago from the time of this post. This was while we were on a hiking trip in my country. Usual moral of the story comes at the end, but this is genuinely important, so I will say it in the beginning. Always, always follow instructions on a hike, especially when crossing difficult terrain. Background. Hikes are usually divided into tiers based on a person's endurance, speed, and capabilities. However, this hike had one level due to a shortage of people and guides. So my best friend and I were asked to assist, given we are regulars and advanced hikers. Now, we were walking quite a distance on a narrow path that forced everyone into a single line. The path is dirt and leaves with rocks scattered, and it was generally downwards, with scattered streams of water, making certain sections of the trail muddy and slippery. Not a big issue for most of us, but we had two unruly new people with us, entitled mom and entitled kid. They complained about the mud, plants, insects, and just about everything. We were tolerant, but that changed pretty quick. We reached a rather flimsy spot where the dirt is very slippery. Slipping off would result in a painful trip to the OR for sure. So me, my best friend, and the guide situated ourselves at the beginning, middle, and end of the drop, respectively, to help people step across, mostly allowing them to stand on our feet or foothills we made with our feet. Story. Cast. We've got entitled mom, entitled kid, guide, best friend, girl hiker 1, girl hiker 2, and me. Okay, girl hiker 1, stand on my right foot and then grab my best friend's hand. Best friend and guide give similar instructions, and we were in a position where entitled kid is next. I am supporting girl hiker 2, girl hiker 1 is with the guide while guy hiker was helping them. Entitled kid.
Mom, take a video of me doing this. I will sprint across.
Me. No, you won't. You'll stand on my right foot and reach to best friend and take his hand. Entitled mom. You cannot tell my kid what to do? Go on, chief. Translated from my native language, it's a term that is similar to man of men, or that he is a strong man. Me. No, man. If you do this and he slips, we will all be in danger, and I might not even be able to catch him. Get the heck back. Entitled kid runs a bit upwards and away from my reach, and within his third step, he loses his footing and slips. He's now between me and my best friend. While slipping, he grabs girl hiker 2's leg, pulling her down. My best friend grabs her arm, and I grab her second one. Me. You jerk! Entitled mom. My baby! You jerks better not let my baby get hurt. Pull him up. Best friend. Jerk, he caused this. Entitled mom. You swine. My baby is more important than all of you. Get him back to me. Me. Shut up, you entitled donkey. Girl hiker 2, are you okay? Sounds more insulting in my language. Girl hiker 2. I'm okay, but he's holding onto my leg and kicking, and I cannot get a foothold. By now, the entire group is looking in horror, and the mother is screaming like a banshee, while the guide grabbed a rope and tossed it to the kid. Kid would not let go of her leg, forcing me and best friend to start losing our footholds. Best friend. You idiot! Grab the rope, or we will all go down. Entitled mom. Don't you dare scream at him. This is all your fault. You and this trail. Only a swine like you is an idiot. Me. Will you shut up already? Girl hiker 2, I need to grab you by the shirt. Is that okay? Girl hiker 2. Yes, just get me out of here. I reached down and grabbed her by the shirt and pulled her up enough for my best friend to grab her back and pull up with me. We felt the dirt beneath us giving way. The dirt was slipping into the kid's eyes as it was tumbling down onto him. He began to flail and scream, causing the mother to start screaming as well. Entitled mom. Do not worry, baby. Hold on. You idiots are hurting him. Me. Can you put a lid on it? Entitled mom. How dare a jerk like you and the swine next to you talk to me and my baby like that? The guide had moved himself a bit below my friend and I and had a strong foothold. The moment we pulled back up enough, he grabbed the entitled kid and pulled him off, allowing us to pull the girl hiker 2 out and back onto my best friend. I lost a lot of my footing and had to dig my hands into the dirt and spider move myself onto a different position. The entitled mom ran to the kid to check on him while yelling at all of us, calling us idiots and irresponsible. She kept threatening to sue, calling my friend swine and other words. Now, what she forgot and did not account for is that both me and my best friend's mom are with us, and they saw all of this go down. Best friend's sister even recorded everything. Surprise cast. We've got mom and best friend's mom. Mom, our kids saved your spoiled brat, so one more word out of you and it would. Best friend's mom shoves entitled mom into a tree trunk. Best friend's mom. How dare you call my kid swine after he saved your kid's life? You jerk. I have half a mind to throw you off this ledge. Say one more word about my kid. I dare you. Entitled mom and entitled kid visibly shrank as the entire group gathered around them yelling and blaming her and her kid for what they did. I and my best friend got to cleaning our boots and clothing from the dirt we had slipped in. We brushed it off and continued the trail. Hiker Girl 2 stuck around my best friend. They joked, and he got her number as well. Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid were noticeably silent, and the guide issued them a ban from our group and other groups we usually collaborate with. There you have it, Reddit. My brush with a possible OR admission due to an entitled kid. Also, did I mention that Entitled Kid was 29? My best friend and I are 22 and 23, respectively. Thought this would be a juicy last piece of info for y'all. Edit. I will respond to a few questions and comments as they have been expressed by a majority of people. Where are you from and what language was this conversation in? Lebanon and Lebanese Arabic dialect. This is why you can see a group of comments about guessing my location and dialect correctly, as those insults are pretty unique to Lebanon and Palestine. How can he be 29 and still live with his mom? This is not uncommon in Lebanon due to the financial situation and the role mothers play in the Lebanese society. A lot of people have never grown out of their mother's circle. Yet, I have to admit he was one of the worst cases I have ever encountered. Speaking of hiking, do you enjoy hiking or camping? Do you like the outdoors? Or do you prefer to stay inside? Please let us know.
She did nothing wrong. She was just trying to take care of her baby.
Entitled Mom tries to take a chocolate shake, for which I paid. Cast. We've got Neighbor, R. We've got me. We've got Entitled Mom. We've got Entitled Kid. We've got Convenience Store Clerk. And we've got Cashier. My neighbor, R, and his wife had a big birthday party today for their daughter. He even went and got a huge blow-up water slide for the kids. When he went with his wife and daughters to return the slide to the person they rented it from, their car broke down. I got a message from them asking if I could pick them up since I drive an SUV and could accommodate all of them, including 2 car seats. I said sure, no problem, and headed out. On the way home, I asked them if they needed to stop anywhere to pick up anything. I needed cigs, so I told them it wouldn't be an issue if they needed me to stop off somewhere. R said he needed cigs too. I stopped at the local convenience store. When we were getting out, the oldest daughter asked if she could get a milkshake. Her mom told her no, they didn't have the extra money for that right now, what with having to pay to have their car towed home. When we got inside, I asked R what kind of milkshakes they liked, that I was going to get them as a treat for being good after having to deal with the car breaking down and all. He said I didn't have to do that. I told him it wasn't a big deal, it was just a milkshake, and I wanted to do it. We walked over to the order screen, and he ordered 2 chocolate shakes, one with whipped cream, one without. I got my order slips and headed to the cashier. Now at this store, you place the order, pay for the order, then pick up your food/beverage. Neighbor had already bought his cigs, so he waited there for the shakes while I went to pay. I chatted with the clerk, paid for my stuff, and turned back to the counter to get the shakes. And then it got weird. Neighbor: Hey, what were those order numbers again? Me: 106 and 108. Neighbor: I thought so. Hey, that is my shake. This was directed to a kid who had grabbed the chocolate shake off the counter. Entitled Kid: My mom said I could have a chocolate shake, and this one is just sitting here. It's mine now. Me: That's not how it works, kid. Give me the shake. You didn't pay for it. Entitled Kid, louder: My mom said. Entitled Mom: What are you doing? Why are you yelling at my son? Me: I paid for that shake. You didn't. I have the order slip. He can't just walk up and grab something off the counter like it's his. Entitled Mom: Well, I haven't ordered his yet, so just let him have that one. You can order another one for yourself. Muttering: Like you really need it. Now peeps, I am a bit curvy, but I am in no way, shape, or form obese. And even if I was, you don't take someone's shake. Neighbor: Oh crap. Me: Excuse me? What the heck did you say? Clerk: Here is your second shake. Wait, where is the first one? Is something wrong? This was said as she saw me staring down Entitled Mom. Me: Lady, I have already paid for both of those shakes. And not that it is your business, but neither are for me. They're for his, pointing at my neighbor, daughters. So your son can put that shake down and you can both walk away from me, or you are going to see what a chocolate shake enema feels like. Entitled Mom, looking at the clerk:
She just threatened me. You need to call the cops. I can't believe she is trying to take away my son's shake.
Clerk: Lady, she ordered and paid for them, not you. And I didn't hear a threat. Did you? Looks at the cashier. Cashier: Nope. Entitled Kid:
I want my shake.
Entitled Mom:
I'm going to call the cops on you for threatening me.
Me: Go ahead. And I am sure these awesome workers will also call them on you for theft of a milkshake. Last chance, lady. Either your kid puts the shake back on the counter, or you will be leaking chocolate syrup for days. Entitled mom grabs the shake from her son, slams it on the counter so hard it exploded all over the clerk and the counter. When she realized what she had done, she grabbed her son's arm and yanked him out of the door, running for her car. The poor clerk was covered in chocolate shake. The cashier went behind the counter to make a new shake, and the clerk left for the back to try and clean herself up. I felt so bad for the clerk, but the cashier said her shift was ending in less than 30 minutes, so she was going home shortly and could get a shower. I thanked them both for the shakes and for sticking up for me, and neighbor and I went out to the car. He told his wife the story, and she laughed so hard I thought she would fall out of the car. She had seen entitled mom and entitled kid running out of the store. Speaking of shakes, what's your favorite shake of all time? Please let us know.
Hurry up and finish, Mr. Reddit, so we can go get some Frosties from Wendy's and dip the fries in them.
Entitled mom tries to get me fired from a place I don't work. This is kind of an old story, but I still think about it from time to time. I was about 17 at the time, and a friend of mine, Mark, was helping to cater some renewal of vows thing. For whatever reason, the catering service just could not find people to work this. Mark was worried that he was going to have to do it on his own. He was only 16 at the time and had just started working this really stressful job. Well, Mark and my sister, Janice, were best friends, so Mark hit her up and asked if we would be willing to help him out. Neither of us had any idea what we were doing, but he seemed stressed, so we agreed. We showed up wearing nice enough clothing and got a fast rundown of how it was going to work. It seemed simple enough, but we realized pretty quickly that there was tension in the air. The little hour-long gig that they had been hired for was not little at all. There were way more people than the caterers had been notified of, and there was not enough food. Not only that, but the caterers had only been hired to prepare the food and switch it out whenever the buffet dishes were getting empty. The caterers were not aware that they would be responsible for collecting and cleaning all of the dishes when they were done. Part of the reason Mark asked my sister and I to help was because he wanted to make the night easy. Now, we were barely able to keep up. Janice was giving out wine, Mark was switching out food trays, and I got the unfortunate job of collecting all of the dishes. Because Mark and Janice were pretty busy with the guests, I wound up dealing with the angry guests. One of these was an entitled mom that made it her mission to ruin my night. My memory is pretty fuzzy here, but it went a little something like this. Entitled mom:
Excuse me, there's no mac and cheese left for my boys.
Me: they might have run out.
What? How can that be? Who the heck takes all the mac and cheese before the kids can get any? Don't you have any more?
Me: no, I'm afraid not.
Then make more.
Now, I didn't technically work for this catering company, but I did know that they made most everything from scratch. The mac and cheese wasn't just a few boxes of Kraft tossed in a pot. I didn't want to make the bride and groom look bad by saying that they didn't order enough food, so I kind of just shrugged and said, "It's not that simple. Sorry." I started walking away with my big cart of dirty dishes. I was trying to clear off all of the dinner plates before dessert was served, but the entitled mom grabbed the front of my cart to stop me. Entitled mom:
Where's your boss? I've had it with your unprofessional behavior.
Most people who know me know I have a very short fuse. I normally try to stay out of conflict because of it. Me: Ma'am, I'm volunteering my time to help the catering company with this gig. You can try to get me in trouble or whatever, but it doesn't really matter to me. She did one of those pearl-clutching, offended-style gasps, and I, again, tried to move my cart past her. Well, since she couldn't stop me, she decided to try and push my cart over. You know, the one filled with several porcelain and glass dishes? I don't know how, but by the grace of God, I was able to jump around the cart and grab the falling side. A few dishes slipped past me and broke on the ground, but ultimately I had saved the majority. My heart was pounding in my ears, but this entitled mom just kept yelling about how her sweet son was going to starve because we didn't have any mac and cheese. I was mortified when I looked around and saw how much attention we had drawn. Eventually, the bride made her way over and instead of listening to what I had to say, berated me further. Apparently, entitled mom was her sister. Mark and Janice weren't having much luck keeping the peace either, and after the bride was finished yelling, Mark pulled me aside and informed me that we had been catering this event for 3 hours, which was way longer than we had been hired for. He decided to call his boss, who was upset and told us to get the heck out of there. We dropped everything and decided to leave at that point. The bride chased us down and threatened to withhold payment, but Mark pretty much told her to pound sand. In the end, the catering company got their money from a mortified groom, and my sister and I were both given $20 for our patience. Last I heard, the bride and the groom had gotten a divorce. Good for him. Speaking of mac and cheese, do you like mac and cheese? Have you ever put hot sauce or bacon on it? Please let us know. My baby loves mac and cheese. Of course, I really do work here. Look how I'm dressed. Took my octogenarian mother shopping. Walked away from her for less than a minute, met a 30-ish-year-old Karen and her spawn. So I took my mom to get some groceries and stuff at Mr. Walton's department store. This just happened yesterday, Saturday. Being really nice out, I'm wearing an old and faded black t-shirt with denim coveralls that I cut the legs off for summer. Mom is in her 80s and has a rollator walker, so I push her cart and she walks beside me. I try to do the food items last so the cold stuff stays cold, but Mom insisted on starting on that side. Okay, I gave in and off we went. After the groceries were in the cart, Mom heads us over to electronics because I was telling her that hubby and I are debating buying all the Avengers movies versus getting a streaming service. Mom wanted to see the cost of the DVDs. This is where we met Karen and her spawn. I'm explaining DVD versus Blu-ray to Mom when Karen walks up and tells me that she needs my help next. Mom is sitting on her walker while we are talking. I politely told her I don't work here, I'm a customer. Then I point out an employee in a blue vest. Karen, no. You are obviously helping this old lady to buy a DVD player. I'm just telling you I am next. Me, sorry, but I really don't work here. I'm shopping with my parent. Karen, listen here, Missy. I know you work here. Now, as soon as you are done with this old lady, I am next. One thing I forgot to mention, I have blue hair right now and had my hair up in 2 ponytails. I know I don't look like a kid, but I definitely don't look 50 either. I hate being called Missy, especially when the carbon-based life form is younger than me. If any of you have read other shopping trips I have posted, you know my mom is a very feisty Italian. Mom, listen lady, open your ears. My daughter doesn't work here. Look how she's dressed. Karen, ma'am, please. I'm just asking this girl to serve me next. Spawn, Mom, she really doesn't work here. Look at her clothes and hair. Karen, just be quiet. You wanted a switch. We're going to get you a switch. If this girl doesn't show more respect, I'll make sure we get a discount. By this point, my mom is done. In Italian, she starts insulting this woman. My mom does not like being the center of attention, but man, if you annoy her, duck and run. Just duck and run. Sales staff finally makes it over to us since Mom is getting louder the longer you let her go. Karen sees the employee and starts in on how rude I am and what a horrid employee I am, and I need to be disciplined for my attitude towards her. The employee looks at me, my mother, and Karen, and politely, in Italian, asks Mom what happened. Mom calmly explains and refers to Karen as a mean name. I'm dying trying not to laugh. Karen has her say, and finally it's my turn, and I turn to Karen. Me. Look, I don't know who your parents are, but sweetie, I could be your mother. You teaching your kid to act like this is unacceptable, especially right now with everything going on and places going out of business. I'm pretty sure you knew all along that I don't work here and were hoping to cause enough of a scene to get the acting manager to give you a massive discount. I'm here to tell you that that ain't happening today. Not here, not in this store. You think that just because I'm dressed in old frayed clothing, you can pull a stunt like this? Then tell staff that I accosted you and I caused all the drama? Guess again, child. On top of your bad behavior towards me, you have caused my mother to get upset. I'm so tempted right now to call the cops and have you charged with harassment. Karen left. Mom and I finished shopping and left. In the car, Mom says, I guess you're a little stressed today, huh? Oh my God, that was the understatement of the year. Edit. Just saw a comment pop up, then disappear. Yes, some people do post and make up stories in order to get karma points. I do not. I don't post much, and I'm not doing this for karma points. High school was over 30 years ago. I don't need to be part of the popular crowd. So if you're going to make comments to that effect, please go look for the truly obvious fake stories. Edit 2. Spanish and Italian are both Latin-based languages, and unless you want to go tell my mother that you think her Italian is incorrect, please don't bother trying to correct mine in this post as I am repeating her choice of words. Speaking of Walmart, Do you enjoy shopping at Walmart or do you hate it? Please let us know.
I love Walmart, and I love harassing the people there.
Entitled father demands I let his kids play with my extremely dangerous dog. So, a little context. I used to walk dogs for people. Now, my friend had a dog, but she was extremely aggressive to just about everything, and so they never walked her. For example, she used to be a guard dog for a farm, but she attacked over 50 chickens and badly injured a horse and the other 4 guard dogs, so they rehomed her to my friend's parents. In their care, she has so far attacked puppies. It's a messy situation, but they love her. Anyway, her hips were getting pretty bad because she wasn't getting any exercise due to her behavior. She was shut away in a single room a lot of the time. So I put my big boy boots on and asked if I could try and train her. After she trusted me and listened to me some, I asked if I could start walking her. They agreed. So we've got me, my friend, Daisy the dog, entitled father and his 3 kids, all under 10, youngest was the only male, and my friend's dad, Bill. Fast forward 6 months. Now she wears a bright red harness that says dangerous dog and a muzzle. She's a very pretty dog, large, white, and fluffy. Kids often try and come near her, but when she starts snarling and lunging, they tend to back off. I try and walk in deserted areas, but you know, they live in the middle of a busy town. It's sort of impossible. So this day, we were walking the path. I hear from behind me something along the lines of, "Look, a puppy!" So I'm already pretty upset because I don't want to deal with angry parents. We start speeding up, but so do the kids. One of the girls runs straight at us and grabs her tail. She goes ballistic, completely jumping off the ground, lunging, snarling, barking, baring her teeth, the whole lot. Now this father walks up, smiling. This dog is trying to rip her face off, and he's laughing about it. I'm trying to control Daisy, so my friend takes control mostly. I was busy, but the gist of it was, my friend asked the man to continue walking with his kids so the situation could be handled, and he was sorry for her behavior. Pretty simple, right? The father, for whatever reason, starts asking questions about her, directed at me. Stupid things like, what's her breed? How old is she? What's her name? Etc. Then he has the nerve to ask if she's good with kids. I was getting angry myself, which was a bad idea because then Daisy was getting further riled up. I'm going to add that all 3 of his kids were laughing at Daisy, which she hated. They kept trying to pet her. It was insane. I grabbed her collar and dragged her away. Note, never do this with aggressive dogs. I was using it as a last resort and only because she was muzzled. The family then follows us. One of the kids chased after us again. I yelled, "Seriously, will you buzz off?" Kid stops dead in his tracks and starts bawling. Father storms up to us and starts sort of yell whispering at us. You know what I mean? "You have no right to yell at my kids. They just want to play. You're clearly hurting this dog," etc. He then goes, "Let her off the leash and let her play with my kids. Take that disgraceful harness off of her and that thing on her face, and after that, we'll leave you alone." At this point, I was so close to saying, "Okay," but it would have ended badly for Daisy, and that's the only reason I didn't. The father sort of stands there like, "Well?" And I'm just standing there gobsmacked. My friend was on the phone with his dad, who had offered to come and defuse the situation. My friend's dad is a huge BSer, but he's so good at it. Luckily, he was only about 10 minutes away, so we all stood there, the father often trying to grab the leash from me. Luckily, just as he actually managed to grab it, my friend's dad comes running around the corner to the back of entitled father. He yells, "Excuse me!" at the top of his lungs, and the father drops the leash. I grab it and start running with the dog towards Bill with my friend. Bill continues towards entitled father, yelling about being an officer. He's not. They yelled for a few minutes, but one thing that really stuck out in my mind was, "I've got friends in all the right places. Boy, I could get you locked up for a very long time. Try and steal my dog or mess with my kids again, and your kids will never see you again." He promptly walked back towards us and asked if we wanted to grab some ice cream on the way home. It was a really scary situation, and we both cried once we got home, but it could have gone so much worse. Also, I'm sorry if this is written weird or if I'm missing some information. I have problems with spelling, and also my memory is pretty bad. Speaking of dogs, what's your favorite dog breed of all time? Please let us know.
Poodles for the win.
Wash your hands, please. It seems that the cafe I work at attracts the crazy ones. For backstory, I work at a cafe that's doing takeout only and having employees wear masks in compliance with city and provincial orders right now. And for the most part, we're doing pretty well. We've even got to the point of where we hired one new employee to deal with the upcoming summer increase that we think is coming. The person we hired, though, was a huge mistake. We live in an area where it's just where the wealthier and normal areas of the city meet, so we see a lot of both kinds of people in here. It just so turns out that this 16-year-old new employee fell within the wealthier side. As usual, we've got entitled kid, entitled mom, me, and we've got the manager. We start our story off on entitled kid's first day in after his telephone interview. I'm in the front getting ready to work and ready to train him when entitled kid comes out into the front espresso bar rather quick and wearing his mask improperly with his nose not covered and his upper lip basically hanging out. Me. First, you need to fix your mask. And second, did you wash your hands? Entitled kid checking his phone. I washed my hands at home. Me. Okay, the rules here, even if this wasn't going on right now, are that you need to wash your hands before starting work. And put your phone away. No phones while you're up front. Entitled kid looking up from his phone. Huh? Me. Go wash your hands and fix your mask. Entitled kid giving me the evil eye. No, I washed my hands at home. What, do you think I'm sick? Me, pointing to the health authority sign. Just wash your hands, please. Entitled kid. I washed them at home. Why am I gonna do it again? Me, cleaning parts of an espresso machine. Entitled kid, you need to wash your hands and wear your mask properly, over your mouth and nose. At that point, entitled kid grumbles and trudges over to the hand wash sink. Out of the corner of my eye, I see him just wet his hands, shake them dry, and come back. Manager seemed to see much more than that. Manager, speaking in her patented mom voice. Wash your hands properly, please. Water and soap for 20 seconds. Entitled kid. Forget you. Manager, dropping all politeness. You're fired. Entitled kid, wide-eyed and shocked. What? Manager, you're fired. Return your apron, please, and get out. Entitled kid, now angry. What? 'Cause I won't waste soap and water? Manager, frustrated herself. Because you're being disrespectful, not only to me, but to other employees. I'm not going to tolerate entitled kid. Seriously? You're gonna be that guy? Manager, yes, I am. Now get out. Entitled kid threw his apron on the ground and stormed out, but not before giving everyone the finger and yelling at the manager and promising we'd be hearing from him. Later that day, we got an angry phone call from his mother. I was lucky enough to be in the office when the call came in, and manager was nice enough to put it on speakerphone. It starts midway through the call below. Entitled mom. So, you better have a good reason for firing entitled kid without giving him a reason. Manager. I did. Did he tell you? Entitled mom. Yes, he did, but I don't accept it. Manager. Uh-huh. Entitled mom, silent for a few seconds before speaking. Well? Manager. What did he tell you? That you fired him for not washing his hands. Manager. He was also highly disrespectful towards me and the barista trying to train him, and he called me a name on the way out in front of a group of customers. So what? I am not about to tolerate that kind of thing in my cafe. If someone else hires him, fine by me, but I'm going to be warning the other business owners in the area about him. Entitled mom. That's libel. Manager. Then sue me, but I'm pretty sure no one will want him if he acts like that with them. Entitled mom, getting a higher pitched in tone. You're gonna regret that. Manager. Uh-huh. Entitled mom. My son is in culinary sciences at school. Manager. Uh-huh. He's already a culinary prodigy. He's gonna get hired at another cafe. Not after they hear, and that cafe is gonna drive you out of business. Manager. Okay. Entitled mom, silent for a few seconds. Why aren't you scared? I know how hard things are right now. I bet you're gonna go bankrupt in the next few days. Manager. This conversation is over. What? My decision is final. Your son is fired. No! I'll be alerting all businesses about your son. No, you will not. You... At that point, manager reached over and just hung up without saying anything else. We disconnected the phone for the rest of the day, and while we haven't heard anything directly from entitled mom or entitled kid, other businesses have been alerted, and we've already heard that entitled kid has tried to apply at other places, and none of them have hired him on manager's advice. Have you ever been fired from a job? Or have you ever quit a job on the spot? Please let us know. Firing people is one of my favorite pastimes. Must find the reservation? Okay. Last week, me and my friend went out to eat for the first time in 3 months. There was a short line before being seated, just one other couple before us. The man insisted that he had a reservation, but the waitress couldn't find his name in her tablet and immediately got loud and angry. The waitress suggested that maybe the man had called the wrong number because there's another restaurant 50 kilometers from here with the same name, and sometimes people mix up the two of them when doing a Google search. She was very polite and calm about it, but the man got even angrier and accused her of trying to shift the blame, said she couldn't do her job, blah blah. The waitress tried to say that they still had some open tables, and if he could wait a moment, she would go and check. But the man kept speaking loudly over her and saying that she must find his reservation. So eventually, the waitress called the owner, and the owner took the man and his companion to one side so they wouldn't block the line while she tried to figure out what was going on. Now, me and my friend didn't have a reservation either, because I'm a total scatterbrain and I forget to call ahead. I told the waitress as much and asked if there was any chance they'd be able to fit us in. She told me not to worry, there were still tables available and we were seated within a minute. Our table was not near the entrance, so we didn't see what happened next, but the same waitress brought us our coffees at the end of dinner, so we asked her if everything was okay. Me and my friend had been talking about it, and we were appalled at the man's behavior. The waitress told us not to worry, that the owner had let him stew for a bit, and then she had called the other restaurant with the same name. The manager of that other restaurant had confirmed they had a reservation under his name. The man was very annoyed at being proved wrong and asked to be seated since they had been waiting a long time. The owner said that unfortunately all tables were full. Man, but earlier you had empty tables. I saw it. Owner, yes, but you told the staff you didn't want to be seated. You wanted us to find your reservation. We have found your reservation. It's for a restaurant in another city. In the meantime, other people have come in and all the tables are full. We have no seats left. The man didn't take it well, but the bartender, a huge giant of a man, was standing nearby, so he scampered off in rage, yelling he was never coming back. I think everyone in that restaurant will be happy if he keeps that promise. Once all of the restaurants start opening back up, do you have one that you know you're going to be going to first? And if so, which one is it? Please let us know. I want some Chipotle, Mr. Reddit. It's been too long. Mess up my cousin's test scores? I'll mess up your life. So, me and my cousin go to the same public school, or rather went to before all this stuff started. He was a grade below me, so we didn't see each other that much. So it had been the day of this huge test for our school. My cousin, who we'll call Joe, finished first in his class. Then he made the mistake of not turning it in before asking to use the restroom. He left, and somehow the bully, who we'll call Mitch, in class got his paper and messed up his answers. He was the type that would go for anyone he knew would be an easy target, then wimp out whenever someone bigger challenges him. A ton of people saw, but no one spoke up because snitches get stitches. So my cousin turns it in, and then it unfolds. After school ends, we're out in the parking lot, and one of the kids from Joe's class comes up to me. Kid, hey dude. Me, hey. Kid, Mitch got Joe's test and messed it up. Me, what do you mean, messed it up? Kid, like he got the paper and erased the answers and put in the wrong ones. At this point, I was piecing it together. Me, why didn't you tell the teacher? Kid, I don't know. I hate that. You didn't know? I didn't know if they were messing with me like they've done before, so I waited a week. Sure enough, my straight-A cousin failed horribly. I knew it was true now. Plus, I asked more students, and sure enough, a lot of them confirmed it was true. Honestly, pretty much all of them, except for the ones that didn't see anything. I was ready to ruin his life now. First, he lives down the street, so I knew his address. Then, thanks to an idea from a YouTuber, I signed him up for strange news outlets, Scientology, weird websites, etc., all with his full name filled in. I would wait patiently for the mail to come at his house. One day, me and my friends were skateboarding. The mail came. The dad came out, got the mail, greeted us, went back in. Mitch! Erupted from the house. It was the loudest human noise I've ever heard. I felt bad, but didn't, all as we heard him getting yelled at by his dad. My friends just stood there, with no idea what I had just caused. Slowly, they got more and more letters. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more plan that was very risky. I had renamed my phone Mitch's iPhone. I planned to airdrop some crazy pictures to the family. Yes, I spared the 4-year-old and his little iPad where he probably watches Baby Shark on loop. I wasn't sure how I would do it. I kind of slid across the gate to get to that side of the house. I'm trying to figure out what to do. But thank God, thank you Lord, they had the worst thing ever. No Wi-Fi password. The rest is history. Monday, he comes to school saying someone sent crazy stuff to his family, and they all think it's him. The kids from his class got 2 more brain cells and told the teacher what Mitch did. My cousin got to redo the test or something. Mitch got an F on his report card and lost a lot of friends after his other brother told everyone what happened. The only one that knows what went down is my cousin, and boy, does he owe me one. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate this revenge? Please let us know.
He did a great job. Looks like I won't even have to speak to his manager.
Entitled Mom wants full refund and replacement order. Reading some of these stories has brought back so many memories of when I managed an ice cream shop in a very popular, very busy tourist destination in a coastal city in Texas. There were lots of restaurants, souvenir shops, etc., all with a nice view of the bay. Anyway, I'll get to the story. Setting: July in Texas. Very hot outside. At a very crowded tourist destination. At the ice cream shop. Cast: we've got Entitled Mom. We've got me. I was also the general manager. And we've got the cashier. It's July, our busiest season at the tourist destination. So busy that I have an employee giving numbers to people as they enter, and they have to wait for their number to be called to be served. It's hot, and there's a line out the door and around the corner. Cue the Entitled Mom. Cashier calls out a number. Let's just say 97. Keep in mind, we're extremely crowded, so we're basically screaming the numbers. No response. Cashier calls 97 3 more times with no response. I tell him to move on. We don't have time for that. As soon as cashier calls for 98, guess who shows up? Entitled Mom comes to the counter, already mad. Entitled Mom:
You skipped my number. I've been waiting forever.
Cashier looks at me, and I come by to explain that we call a number 3 to 4 times, and if we don't get a response, we have to move on. She didn't like that. Entitled Mom to me:
That's a load of BS. Let me talk to your manager. No one called my number. I was listening.
Me: There's no need for that. I'd be happy to serve you. What can I get y'all? I send cashier to help 98 instead and take over. Entitled Mom:
Well, I don't know. Tell me all the flavors.
Me: Ma'am, all the flavors are labeled, and you can sample any you like. Entitled Mom takes her time looking through all the flavors while giving me dirty looks and mumbling stuff to her husband and kids. After probably a dozen samples, the family orders and I explain the sizing, the cones, bowls, mix-ins, etc. They all order cones with ice cream that has several mix-ins. This is important because the more stuff you add, the softer the ice cream gets. So Entitled Mom pays, complaining the entire time about how expensive it was and how I was overcharging them, blah blah blah. Whatever, I finally get them done and I move on. 5 to 10 minutes later, I hear yelling and cashier waving at me to come over. I ask someone to take over my current customers and I go to cashier. Entitled Mom:
I want my money back.
Me: I'm so sorry, ma'am. Can you explain what the problem is? Entitled Mom:
We started walking around outside, and this overpriced ice cream started melting all down our hands and got all over my kids' clothes.
Me: Well, ma'am, it's about 102 degrees outside today, so unfortunately, ice cream will inevitably melt.
That's not an excuse. I paid good money for this ice cream, and I want it all refunded and replaced.
At this point, I'm in awe of the audacity of this lady. I'm wasting my time dealing with this complaint while over 100 people are waiting to be served. Me: Ma'am, I'd be happy to give all of you cups, and you can turn your cones upside down into them. That'll stop it from getting everywhere and make it easier to eat. Entitled Mom:
Get your manager, now!
Me: I am the manager, ma'am, and unfortunately, I cannot refund or replace your ice cream because of the heat outside. Entitled Mom starts screaming, calling me names, and asking for the owner's phone number. Obviously, I'm not giving my boss's number. I gave her the number for corporate and told her to enjoy the rest of her day. She continued to call me names and tell me I'll be fired because of this. I continued calling numbers and helping other guests. Eventually, she starts bothering my other customers and they basically tell her to shut up and get out. Corporate called me the next day asking if this was a real complaint. They apparently thought it was fake because it was in all caps in one long sentence. We laughed about it and moved on with our lives. Speaking of ice cream, what's your favorite flavor ice cream of all time? Please let us know.
I could go for some Rocky Road.
Midterm project. Several years ago, I worked as a German teacher at a local middle school. I was hired as a long-term sub for a single year, teaching an intro class which lasted 3.5 months. Around the halfway point of each trimester, the students were supposed to be given some sort of midterm, but because I didn't like giving paper tests, I instead had them do a project. Look up one item in a German dictionary for each of the 12 colors we had just finished learning in class and make a small picture book with 12 pages, and I even went out of my way to cut paper and staple it together to make books for everyone. I had kids drawing their own pictures, printing them out from Google, handing them in early because they did them so quickly, and even competing to see who could come up with the weirdest objects. It was a fun assignment, an easy A, and very informative for the kids. The perfect school project. However, one girl didn't hand her assignment in. I asked her about it, and she swore she handed it in, but I didn't have it in my inbox. I searched everywhere, but couldn't find it, so I knew I didn't misplace it. Her mother emails me the next day and demands to know where the project is. I explained to her that I never received it, and therefore couldn't give her a grade until I received it. I explained the grading policy was to lose 10% for every class day that the assignment wasn't handed in. Class met every other day, and that she could hand it in late if she wanted to. The mother insisted I was lying and went to my principal about it. The principal asked me to explain the assignment to him, then rolled his eyes and apologized, saying the girl's mother pulled the same thing with a project the previous year in another class, and that the kid was never held accountable for anything. I explained the grading policy to him as established by my department, and he tells me to just keep reminding the girl of the assignment, and eventually called the mother and told her, once again, that this is our grading policy and that we can't make an exception. Her response?
But my daughter worked hard on the project. She works hard in class. She deserves an A.
I had to laugh to myself. I had almost 24 kids in that class who deserved A's. They deserved A's because they earned A's for handing in A-level work. It's been a few weeks and I still don't have the book in my hands, and now I'm more or less forced to give the girl a 0. Between when the project was assigned and the next incident, I gave the girl at least 3 blank books, none of which were handed in. The very same day I enter the 0 in the grade book, though, I get called back into the principal's office because apparently the mother had called the superintendent. He said, "Just so she stops wasting the superintendent's time, can you just make an exception to the grading policy?" I sigh and agree to do so, and he responds, "When she hands in the assignment, give her whatever grade you think she really deserves, other than a 0. I nod and leave the office. I send the mother an email with our ultimatum. She has until the last day of class to hand in the assignment. If it's 100% correct, I'll give her full credit, which is obviously more than fair, considering we're a good 15 class meetings past the project due date. On the very last day of school, I get the project. It's only half done. I enter a grade of 50 in the gradebook, and within seconds, I get an angry email from the mother that is CC'd to the principal, the superintendent, and several other people whose names I don't even recognize. I responded with a screenshot of the previous email I sent her with our terms, shut down my laptop, and handed it in to the IT office. On my way out the door, the principal actually thanks me for everything I did and says, "She's going to try to get you fired for this, you know." We share a laugh, and I leave the building for the last time. You can't get someone fired who doesn't work there after all. How do you feel about the principal caving to the Karen? Do you think it was right that because she called the superintendent, he gave her what she wanted? Please let us know.
When a Karen makes enough phone calls, we can get anything we want.
Motorcycle cowboys. Finally experienced my own entitled mom and entitled kids in the wild. Honestly, before this, I always thought the stories here might be a little bit made up. I mean, no offense to any OPs, I just couldn't fathom people actually acting the way that they're portrayed here. So I was deeply involved in a home improvement project, one that required me to turn both the power and the water off. I'm laid off right now due to what's going on, but my wife is still working. The plan was that I would accomplish my task when she was at work and have everything buttoned back up by the time she got home. Things are going good until I realized I needed a few odds and sods, and a run to the local hardware store 20 minutes from my house was in order. As the required items were small and it was a sunny day, I rode my motorcycle. Got there, got my stuff, came out to leave, found a mother and presumably twin boys standing next to my bike. I think they were twins, same size, same shape, matching outfits, dressed like cowboys, hats and holsters, right down to little mini cowboy boots. I suppressed a smirk at their outfits. I've been riding for about 35 years, so I know motorcycles often garner attention, often from kids, and as an avid enthusiast, I promote the sport. After all, it was a similar interaction when I was little that fueled my lifelong passion for riding. That being said, I have minimal patience for small, carbon-based life forms under the age of, say, 35. The one kid is yelling, "Motorbike!" The other kid is making vroom vroom sounds. Entitled Mom says that her sons like motorcycles. I politely acknowledge this, put my purchases in my saddlebags, and start putting my helmet on. Sensing that I'm leaving, they start saying they want to sit on it, and both start trying to climb on it, coming dangerously close to the header and exhaust pipes, which I know will be very hot. I step closer and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Entitled Mom goes 0 to 100 in a nanosecond and screams at me for talking to her kids that way. No one talks to her kids like that. No one says no to them, obviously. I literally said just those 3 words. You'd think a cowboy would understand, whoa. Entitled Mom says that he just wants to sit on it and lifts one of them up to hoist him aboard. He doesn't know what to do with his feet, and he kicks his hard-soled cowboy boots onto my gas tank. Once aboard, the other one screams he wants to ride too, and Entitled Mom hefts him aboard. He also does a tap dance on my paint job. Now, if you are not part of the motorcycle community, you may not understand, but there is etiquette, that you don't sit on someone else's motorcycle without their permission. It's sort of like if you were in a parking lot and you like someone's car and you want to sit in the front seat. You wouldn't do that without asking, but I'm willing to let that go because we have 2 excited kids on our hands. So both cowboys are now on my bike, and they are twisting things and kicking things and just being little jerks. However, I'm on a schedule. Remember, my house is sitting there with no power and no water, and my wife is due home in 2 hours. So after a suitably generous time letting these 2 little jerks play around, I tell Entitled Mom that I have to leave. Both cowboys immediately pitch a fit, saying they want to go for a ride. Entitled Mom tells me to take them for a little ride around the parking lot. 2 problems. My motorcycle only really has 1 seat, although it does have a luggage rack behind the seat that I suppose could carry a small human in a pinch. I also only have my own helmet, so thrill rides are definitely out. I tell Entitled Mom this, and she says, "Oh, it'll be okay. Just do it right now." I refuse and ask her to remove her kids immediately. She threatens to get the manager of the hardware store. I say, "Go ahead. What the heck is he gonna do?" I reiterate the fact that I want her to remove her kids from my motorcycle immediately. Now she threatens to call the cops, to which I think, "Go ahead. What the heck are they going to do?" Seeing no immediate action from her, I stepped forward and grabbed the first little cowboy, meaning to lift him off of my bike. Entitled Mom simply shrieks at me to unhand her kid. She actually used the word unhand, made me laugh out loud. I said fine, but take them off immediately as I have to leave. She finally did so, and I hopped on and started the engine, which I admit is quite loud. Both little cowboys immediately covered their ears and started crying. These little jerks wanted to go for a ride and don't like loud pipes. I took off, came home, finished my project, getting the power and water on literally 5 minutes before my wife arrived. When she came home, I was telling her of my story about this incident when my phone rang, and it was the local police service. Entitled Mom had actually reported me to the police via my plate number and said that I was operating a motorcycle in a reckless manner, endangering her kids. The cops said because they didn't respond to the scene that I wouldn't receive a citation, but it was more of a courtesy call. I explained the whole situation back to him, including the part about her wanting me to take the kids on a ride, and his tone immediately changed. He said that things made a lot more sense now hearing my side. He thought the whole story sounded a little bit fishy. Nothing more would come of it. From this day forward, I will never again doubt anything I read in this sub. Entitled Moms are out there, people. Be careful. Do you like motorcycles? Have you ever been on one, or would you like to ride on one? Please let us know.
He should have let them go for a ride. I just don't know what his problem was.
I guess the grocery store employs dog trainers now. This was a while back when I worked at a pet retail chain as the lead dog trainer. Where I worked was a short walk to the grocery store, and I often would go there on my lunch break to grab something to eat. I got confused for an employee many times, but this one took the cake. Cast. we've got me, we've got Karen, and Karen's 3 friends. It was a pretty nice summer day, and I was feeling pretty great as I had crushed it in dog training sales earlier that day and the sun was shining. I was still wearing my gray athletic shirt with the huge white letters on the front and back that said dog trainer, as well as having a large blue bait bag, pouch for holding dog treats and other kit, on my belt. I was kneeling, grabbing a box of plastic spoons when I heard Karen. Karen.
Hey, excuse me, look at me.
Me glances over and looks away, as I'm sure they mean someone else. Karen guffaws at her friends.
No wonder these people don't make a living wage. I can't believe how rude employees are these days. Hey, you, look at me when I'm talking to you.
Me, taken aback by the gall of this lady. I stand up and turn around.
Finally, you were in your own little world there, huh? Next time you need to ask the customer if they want any assistance before they have to try to get your attention. It's very incredibly rude.
Turns to the gaggle of Karens behind her for pats and reassurance.
We need you to get us X brand of bread and Y brand of ice cream. Oh, and show us where the chips are. We're in a hurry.
Me. I'm sorry, I actually don't work here, but gesturing to an employee nearby. They do and can probably help you. I start turning to walk away. Karen.
Excuse me? You are right here. You should help. Stop trying to make other people do your job. Now find our stuff before we get your manager.
Karen's friends start exchanging looks and definitely notice my shirt. Me. Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm on my break trying to grab a few things myself. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Karen.
Even if you're on break, you still need to help customers. That's your job.
Karen's friends try to gently get her attention, whispering that they don't think the grocery store employs dog trainers. Karen completely ignores them and continues her tirade.
I can't believe how disrespectful you are. You can't even do your job. I bet you didn't even graduate high school with this attitude.
Me. Lady, for the last time, I do not work here. If you try to read the 2 words on my shirt, you'd notice that it says I'm a dog trainer. Dealing with dogs is my job, so unless you're going to start paying me, I have better things to do. I walk away and overhear Karen's friends trying to calm her down and also holding back laughs because they tried to warn her. I finished grabbing my items and hightailed it back to work. Never saw that Karen again, and I'm still waiting for another rude interaction so I can use that line again. All because I asked for ID. So this happened yesterday. I work the tills at a DIY store in the UK, and there are a few items that our government has deemed dangerous for under 18s to purchase. Some are reasonable, but there are a few that you wouldn't think you'd need to be 18 for. In the UK, we have a Challenge 25 rule. If the customer looks under 25, you have to ID them for certain items to make sure they're over 18. It's to ensure the customer is definitely over 18, and if you don't, the till operator selling the item could face some jail time and get fined. Not worth it. So this lovely gentleman comes to my till with some wallpaper and adhesive, the latter item being the Challenge 25 item. So I scan the item and it pops up on my till to ask for ID. I look at the customer who looks young but not sure if 25 or not, so I ask for ID. Well, I might as well have told him that I hurt his dog or something. He just gradually gets angrier and angrier. He yells all sorts. I'm 28. I'm just trying to do my house up. This is stupid, etc. He even calls someone and screams down the phone that he needs them to come buy the adhesive. I was amazed. I was looking at the other till operators like, what the heck? And even the other customers were stunned. Really wasn't helping his cause to look like a reasonable adult when he's throwing his dummy out the pram and having a tantrum. He doesn't have ID, so he buys no Challenge 25 items and storms off shouting, amazing. But wait, there's more. As he leaves, he throws his items and motorbike helmet to the floor outside and storms off to his moped. Again, not helping his cause. You only need to be 16 to ride one of them in the UK, and comes stomping back to the door. He comes raging in, and now he's gotten himself so enraged he's pacing around, threatening to hit something. Okay, buddy. He says he's got his license, which is a provincial. Again, only need to be 16 to have one, so I ask to see his ID to check the birth date. He continues to pace, saying he doesn't want me to serve him, so I pass the item to the girl on the till behind me and ask her to sell this gentleman this adhesive, please. Unfortunately, she was in the middle of a transaction with another customer, so he had to wait. Nope, He throws his ID on her desk and puts his card on the card reader for contactless payment. Never mind, she had rung up the other customer's items and he was going to pay for them, and I still had the adhesive, so I raised my voice slightly and told him to wait at the side until she was ready. Once she had finished with her customer, she checked his ID slowly, sold the adhesive, and he was on his way, throwing a fit, still leaving the store. Myself and the other checkout girls just looked at each other like, what the heck just happened? All because I asked for ID, which he had in the first place. You may be 28, mate, but you got a lot of growing up to do. As my dad always says, you don't have to be a cannibal to get fed up with people. Karen follows me into the men's restroom. A few weeks ago, I was visiting my local big box bookstore, looking for some good clearance items before the store closed permanently. The dead mall it was attached to is being demolished. The store has no dress code, but the employees do wear lanyards, and I wasn't. So I was browsing around my preferred sci-fi section when I realized I needed to use the nearby restroom. So I headed in that direction, which happened to also be next to the mid-store customer service counter. Karen noticed me, positions herself directly in front of me, and blocking my path to my urinary destination.
I don't know why you don't keep that desk staffed, but I really need your help finding my book. Are you going to help me or not?
Not, I say, remembering the urgency of my business, and I step around her with a variation of, I don't work here, continuing to my destination, thinking that will be the end of the encounter. It's not to be. I hear her voice rising in pitch and volume on its way to full Karen Banshee as she literally follows me into the men's room, and I'm convinced she was about to grab my arm and pull me around to face her. Being conscious of social norms about public exposure, I made it into a stall and locked the door for privacy. That didn't stop her from knocking on the door and threatening to get me fired before she heard the really solid stream hit the water and, I'm convinced, realized for the first time what it was that she had done. I heard her embarrassed-sounding squeak/huff, and she hightailed it out of there. I finished my thing and washed my hands and came out to witness her being escorted out of the store by a properly lanyarded employee. I only caught the tail end of the conversation where Karen stated she was
never coming here again,
and the employee had a classic response, neither am I, we're closing. Entitled mom uses my things for college for her advantage. My family friend, I'll call her my teacher, is an ex-cosmetologist and ex-beautician teacher and now owns several highly rated salons/spas, hair coloring, cutting, styling, manicures, pedicures, and makeup. She knew I wanted to also do those things, but I am currently going to college to become a music teacher. She decided since she has a salon near my college, she would teach me her old lessons, / what was required to be taught on weekends after the shop closed, my days off, and afternoons in exchange for working reception and as her assistant, booking appointments, greeting, checking people in, grabbing things, and doing errands if needed. She also said when I got my license, she would hire me there so I can work during the last years of my college, 5-year degree. My dad gave me a loan to buy the things I would need to be able to do it once he found out, over $1,000, and I could take out more if needed, for only this, and make payments whenever, no interest charged. My teacher gave me her old makeup kit, no makeup, just something for transporting it easily in, that only was dirty and didn't have locks on it, and my dad painted it white and painted cherry blossoms with my name in big neon pink letters on it for an Easter gift to me. I leave my kit in my room, in the corner, behind my dresses for my musical performances for college. Now, my stepmom is just getting interested in makeup. I give her tips and a list of what products would be good for her skin. I even told her I'd give her a discount if she wanted me to do her makeup, the price of products used only. Her response was, "Why can't you do it for free? We're family." My entitled mom alarms were going off. I told her I need to pay back the loans I have and left when she started getting mad. I already didn't like her nor respect her at this time. If I leave for a night, I lock my bedroom door and bring the only key to my bedroom in the house with me. I went to a family barbecue for Memorial Day weekend. 2 aunts, 2 uncles, my grandfather, my teacher, her best friend, my mom, myself, and my 2 cousins, one who's 6 and one who's 4, and stayed 2 nights. When I came back, my bedroom door was unlocked, which was a red flag since it's a force of habit to lock it. I looked and saw my kit in the middle of the room, open. That was a red flag factory. I just broke down and cried. My dad saw me and saw what was in my room. He knew that it was all wrong. My stepmom comes down, wearing the makeup from the kid, and wondered what was wrong. My dad asked her what she had done, and my stepmom told him, "Well, I made a copy of her key and borrowed your stuff. Makeup is cheap. You can replace it." I almost punched her. My dad took her into the garage and tore her a new one. She cried, said he was overreacting, and drove off to her son's/daughter's/brother's house. I calculated how much it would cost for me to sanitize, clean, and replace the things that couldn't be sanitized. Eyeliners, mascaras, broken brushes, broken powder products, whole pallets that had been completely destroyed, etc., and shipping for all of it. It came out to over $750. One of my pallets was $44 alone, no shipping, and was a personal favorite brand of mine. Shout out to Glamlight. My dad sold one of her sewing machines, returned the build-it-yourself dollhouse that he had bought her, and sold things of hers until he got over $900, all in cash. He used some of that money to replace my locks. Only one key was made and transferred the rest of the money to my account, which I used to get what I needed to replace everything, using my code that all beauticians have to get a small discount with certain brands. I ended up having about $100 left over and used it to buy my dad's Father's Day gift and used the rest of the leftover money as loan payment. When my stepmom came back, she freaked out at my dad and I for destroying her hopes and dreams. All I said was, "You break it, you buy it." She screamed at both of us, said she deserved all of the things she paid for. I was petty enough to have left her all the broken and unusable makeup and brushes where her sewing machine used to be, with the cost of each product plus shipping taped to it. She refuses to look, talk, or even be in the same room as me now, and my dad said that she has one more chance before he kicks her out for good. So, happy ending. But the entitled mom/my stepmom is still as entitled as before. I always lock my room now and keep my personal makeup in my room. Quick add-on. My dad always told me something. Don't upset or mess with people who handle your food or money. And money and time are two things you should never waste. So when my stepmom had done that and messed with technically my money, he was furious that she was wasting my money. So he made sure in the end she only wasted her money and not mine. Update. My dad loves all the comments you guys have made about him. He thought he was being a jerk to her, and this has made him know that he was in the right. Update. Holy! My stepmom, out of childishness, poured and splashed water all over the fridge. It froze overnight, and now it's having to force things out of the freezer to get it out. My dad sent out a group message that something had split and everything was stuck, and my stepmom replied, "You're getting a taste of your own medicine. You ruined my life, so I'll ruin yours. Lol." My dad might kick her out now. Update again. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, my stepmom wasn't home yet. I asked my dad, who's up making guitar amplifiers out of old speakers, his side job, DM me if you want a custom-made guitar amp, and asked where she is. He said, not looking up from his work, "She won't be here for a little while. I'm going to let her rethink her choices, then decide while she's gone if it's better or worse for me while she's away." I feel like he's nicely saying that he kicked her out, but it also might just be a break. Also, he saved the freezer. A big thank you. I'm crying. You guys are so amazing. The ones who offer support are such a happy welcome in my life of being alone, and the ones who donate their spare makeup that they don't need anymore, thank you so much. I love all of you for helping me in this crisis. I posted this thinking I'd get verbal support to help my dad realize he needs to leave her in the comments, but instead for a support system of kind and caring strangers. Thank you so much, all of you. Have you ever had a parent or a step-parent take your stuff without asking? If so, how did it make you feel? Please let us know. I take my kid's stuff whenever I want. I deserve it. Entitled dad ignores his kid, they get hurt, so he tries to sue Starbucks. Starbucks, mid-2000s, summer afternoon. Paraphrased for short reading. Outside of my old Starbucks is a small garden with some trees, some flowers, and a 3-foot-tall rock wall perimeter. The 3-foot-tall rock wall has been neglected over the years, and several rocks are prone to uncontrollable shifting whenever too much weight is applied. It is a decoration wall, not a jogging wall. Most parents advise their kids not to run along the wall. Until today. A girl is running laps along the unstable garden wall while her entitled dad is on his cell phone and ignoring her. Knowing that our garden wall is unstable, I ask her to stop. She ignores me, so I advise her dad of the possible danger. Me: "Sir, could you ask her to stop running laps along the unstable garden wall?" Entitled dad: "Why?" Me: "The garden wall is unstable. She could easily hurt herself." Entitled dad: "Are you in charge here?" Me: "No." Entitled dad: "And don't tell me what to do." I relay the necessary information to the shift supervisor, who is presently in charge. Supervisor: "Sir, could you please ask her to stop running laps along the unstable garden wall? The garden wall is unstable, and she could easily hurt herself." Entitled dad: "Are you in charge here?" "Yes, I am." "I don't tell you how to make coffee. Don't tell me how to raise my kid." Minutes later, a rock in the garden wall collapsed beneath her feet. She lost her footing, falls 3 feet, and broke her arm. The shift supervisor and I witnessed the whole thing. Fortunately, a third member of the staff is an ex-reservist who knows first aid. Upon learning what has happened, he grabs the first aid and rushes to the scene. Ex-reservist: "Hello, I know first aid. May I help you?" She nods her head, crying too hard to speak. While the ex-reservist is applying ice and a splint to her arm, the entitled dad ignores them both, choosing instead to yell at the shift supervisor. Entitled dad screaming: "Where is your manager? I'd like to know why you didn't maintain your garden wall." In actuality, the garden wall is the responsibility of our landlord and not of the Starbucks coffee company. None of this information is making the girl feel better. Entitled dad threatens us with a lawsuit for the next 15 minutes, repeating the same phrases ad nauseum. "Where is your manager? Why didn't you maintain your garden wall?" After he has satisfied himself with his yelling, he acknowledges his daughter and drives her to the hospital, barely thanking the ex-reservist for tending to her injury and her pain. The following day, entitled dad returns with his daughter and a lawyer. The lawyer takes statements from the ex-reservist, the shift supervisor, and myself. Entitled dad wanted to sue Starbucks for 5 figures, but in the end, a lawsuit never materialized. To the best of my knowledge, the girl has made a full recovery. Do you think entitled dad had any right to sue the Starbucks? And if so, why or why not? Please let us know.
He had every right to sue them. It was their fault she got hurt.
The time Karen thought we messed with her food was managing on this busy evening. A group of 8 had walked in and were quoted 30 to 45 minutes. It was about 35 minutes in that 2 tables opened up that we could push together. But apparently, the leader of the pack wanted to speak with me.
Hi, we were quoted 30 minutes. It's already 10 past. I'm really upset, and I want to know what you're going to do for me.
We are by the host stand, so I peer over my host's shoulder and ask her to point out where they are on the list. Sure enough, Amanda, 8, 30 to 45 minutes. I double check with my host. Yes, I absolutely verbalize the quoted time every time. I'd be stupid not to. This is one of those hosts who's actually too good at her job that they fear promoting her. There's no doubt in mind. I turn back. My host tells me she quoted you 30 to 45 minutes and we're still in that time frame. And your table's ready as soon as we get place settings on there, so please hang tight. She's not satisfied.
I didn't hear no 45 minutes. I heard 30. Now what are you going to do for me?
Click. Uh-oh, I feel it. A dormant dragon. The inner rage. I recall what one of my favorite veterans passed on to me. If anyone is ever rude to you or trying to get under your skin, kill them with kindness. It's the jujitsu of mind games. It'll completely disarm them, and what are they gonna do? Complain that you were being too nice? Unclick. You know, you're absolutely right. I must be mistaken, the host must be mistaken, and we're gonna do everything we can to rectify this. Let's go ahead and get you set, and I'm gonna buy the table a couple appetizers on the house. I'm also gonna make sure to set you up with our best server. It was already the server section. I just threw that last part in. Karen is taken aback.
Okay.
I find the server and catch her up on the situation. A wild Karen, couple free apps, kill them with kindness. We're all family at this restaurant, so of course she's gonna take joy in this too. She hams it up. We bring them a couple calamari. I walk by the table and stop at Karen. So how's everyone this evening?
Good.
Certainly a lot more demure. She doesn't seem to want to make eye contact, other than the side eyes she was throwing my way as I was walking around the restaurant, having a ball with staff and regulars. My management style is one of high spirits. Excellent. Well, let me know if y'all need anything else. She ended up not ordering anything, and the calamari on her end was untouched. The rest of her party seemed to be having a blast, but she sat there looking uncomfortable the whole meal. Karen learned a lesson that day about entitlement. Have you ever tried killing them with kindness? And if so, has it ever worked for you? Please let us know.
Kindness? I don't know what that word means. You're making me uncomfortable.
Revenge at last. So to start off, I used to work at a big warehouse store chain. Let's call it CJ's. I worked there for nearly 5 years, finally got fed up and had to leave. I now work at an amazing factory job and I love it. Been there a little over 8 months, which makes this story even more fascinating in a way. Yesterday, I was at CJ's getting groceries and talking to a couple of my old friends that still work there. I'm wearing my factory uniform, clearly not wearing the red and blue that the workers at CJ's wear. My factory uniform is black. In walks an older woman that we all know of. Let's call her, Karen. She was what you might call a problem customer. Nothing was ever what she liked. All the employees were idiots, etc. But she had a real hatred for the male employees. Why? Who knows? But she treated me and the other male stock clerks horribly. Karen spots me talking to my friends, and Karen never liked me. Even though I had on a mask and again was wearing my factory uniform, she comes right on over. Tells us all we're lazy workers and that we don't get paid to stand around and talk. She then orders me to help her lift some cat litter into her cart. Me. No, I don't work here anymore. Get someone else to do it. Karen.
Excuse me? You do too work here.
You've helped me in the past.
Now help me get some cat litter.
Me. I haven't worked here in 8 months. I'm not doing anything. One of these guys will help you. Indeed, the 2 guys I was talking to were literally standing right there, but that didn't please Karen. Karen.
Are you refusing to help a paying customer? I'll get you fired.
At that point, I was rather fed up. I just smiled at her and said, okay, go ahead. Get me fired from here, you jerk. That went as well as you'd expect, and she immediately went to the service desk. Minutes later, Karen came back with one of the managers, and who was the manager she got? The one I got along extremely well with when I worked there. As soon as they reached me, I hear her say,
That's the one. Fire him for insulting me and not helping me.
He just walked over and asked me how my new job was going. Karen's look, priceless. So, I ruined someone with a stolen checks day. Quick flashback to Saturday. I'm making a cash pickup from the tills, and there's a check in the till drawn on a bank that closed 15 years ago after being bought out by another bank. I showed it to the cashiers and told them about it. Our store director went to high school with the person the checks belonged to and confirmed they were stolen. Back to Monday. There's a customer with a couple of large buggies. She pulls out one of the exact same sets of checks and starts riding it out for $380. One of the cashiers I had shown the check to comes running to the office with a check. Ma'am, I can't take this check.
Why not?
Well, to start with, Superior Federal has been closed since 2005. This check isn't any good.
It's my daughter's check. There's a Superior Federal still in El Dorado.
No, ma'am. The Superior Bank in El Dorado wasn't a part of this chain when it was open, and it's actually a credit union. This check clearly says Federal Bank in Malvern. Also, it's not your daughter's check. This check is stolen. I know the person these belong to. I had an account with Superior Federal when it was open. They were a really good bank, so I know a bit more than a normal person would.
Well, I never.
It doesn't matter. I cannot and will not take this check for this purchase. At this point, the lady storms out, and she and the woman with her head for different vehicles. I can't quite get a tag number on them, but I get a good description and call the police department. Upon reviewing the cameras, we discover that the lady had an ankle monitor on. 15 minutes later, they come back, pull into the parking lot of the law office next door, and go in. I run out, get a tag number, and call the police, who show up and make an arrest. I am not a bouncer, and I didn't steal your money. Hi all. I've had the misfortune to experience a lot of things in my 30-odd years that Redditors may enjoy. I'll start with one that made me laugh when my friend reminded me about it last night and can add more if there is some interest. Been watching a few of these groups for a little while, and occasionally they remind me of my own experiences. I should probably introduce myself. I'm a male from the UK, late 30s now, and I'm quite tall at 6'4". which seems to make me stand out enough that I'm either a target or just the person who catches the eye of lunatics quite a lot. Cast for this tale, we've got me. We've got Phil, my friend who reminded me about this story. We've got girls 1 through 6. They had made a small mistake but couldn't get past it. We've got the bouncer, big fella, not too bright though. And we've got the manager, nice bloke that sorts it all out. Here we go. The language is as best as I remember, but I had been drinking, so exact words are going to be a stretch. A few years ago, I was hanging around drinking outside a bar in Manchester with my friend Phil. My friend smokes, but I don't. You mostly need to go outside to designated smoking areas to smoke in the UK. As I'm stood there talking to my friend, admittedly quite near the door to the bar, a small group of drunk girls gathers in front of me. I don't really notice for a few moments as I'm talking, but after a short while, I pick up that there is a little crowd stumbling about in front of me, and they're looking a bit agitated, lots of huffing and tutting. I looked over them briefly and noticed they were all carbon copy blondes, all with the same haircut. Not a Karen cut, sadly. Mid-30s, similar black outfits, all quite overweight, no judgment, just an observation, and all drunk like it was their first time out on the town. The only thing separating them was the level of fake tan that they had gone for. It ranged from orange to a kind of mahogany color. I'm oblivious to why they're standing there or who they might think I am at this point, but I assume I'm in the way a little bit, so I move to the side away from the door and they start to enter the bar with a few slurred variations of "finally" and "useless." It seems obvious now that they thought I was the bouncer/doorman who had let them in. But at the time, I just thought I must have been in their way a bit. There didn't seem to be a bouncer, as it was a quiet night, so an easy mistake to make. I should also mention it was cold and rainy in Manchester. It usually is, so I was wearing a big coat. It was dark in color, but wasn't the usual bouncer uniform of black coat with SIA identification on the sleeves. SIA is Security Industry Authority, if memory serves. I actually did work door security for a couple of years at student bars and clubs in the past, so I know a little bit of this, but that was years ago. Most bouncers tend to be quite big boys, as it's a physical job when crap goes down with fighting and such, and I'm in that category because of my height and build. A few minutes pass, and 4 of the girls stumble out of the bar again and make a beeline right for me. I wasn't as close to the door anymore, but I was still outside with my friend. The leader of this gaggle was massively drunk and had obviously been elected as that night's spokesperson. She will be girl 1. She did most of the speaking, and the rest mostly just said supportive things to back her up. Girl 1.
You need to come in and save my friends.
Me. Sorry, what?
Come on, they're in trouble.
Grabs my arm, which surprised me a bit. Me, still oblivious. Who's in trouble? I also pull my arm away, which seems to annoy her.
Come with me now. My friends are being attacked.
Grabs my arm again. Phil. You better go, it sounds important. He was laughing as he had figured out the problem already. Me. Okay. Confused as I still don't get it, but I was just drunk enough to think they might be trying to be funny or pick me up or something. Girl 1.
Finally, quick.
Girls 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, hurry.
She leads me into the bar and up to a sort of dance floor area where the other 2 girls are dancing and kissing 2 guys. I'm still a bit confused why I'm here and now notice that girls 1 through 4 are staring at me expectantly. Me, still confused. So what am I doing here? Girl 1 shouting over the music.
Kick those guys out of here. They're attacking my friends.
Me. Seems like they're okay to me. Why did you drag me here? Girl 1.
We're on a girls' night, and these guys aren't even with us.
Girls 1 through 4.
Yeah, we don't even know them.
Me. Okay, but why would I need to be involved? Girl 1 upping the drama a bit.
They're being assaulted, and you just want to watch?
Me. No. I don't really care. I'm going to go back outside now. I turn to walk out. Girl 1 shrieks something at me and tries to slap me in the face. She misses, spins, and hits the floor. I'm walking away and out now, and when I turn, having taken the few steps to get to the back door, Girl 1 is stumbling to her feet and struggling a bit. I walk outside and hope that's all the weirdness I'll have tonight. I find Phil, who's laughing at me, having watched the drama from the door. Phil, you're not free yet. I think you're in trouble now. Motions towards the door. The 4 girls have found a real bouncer who must have been inside and are pointing me out, looking furious. They come over and they're halfway through their version of the story to the real bouncer. Girl 1.
That's the one. That's the bouncer who refused to help us and then knocked me over. He needs to be fired.
Bouncer. This guy? Pointing to me. Me. things suddenly clicking in my brain. Wait, bouncer? Do you think I'm a bouncer? Girl 1. Yes, you, of course. You let us in. Bouncer. He doesn't work here. Girl 1. Yes, he does. Don't you even know each other? Me. No, I don't work here. I'm stood here with a pint in my hands. Why do you think I work here? You're dressed as a bouncer and you let us in. By wearing a dark jacket? I didn't let you in. I just moved out of your way when you went in. Girl 1. You came inside with us to sort out those guys. Why would you do that if you don't work here? You didn't give me much time to think. Before I knew it, you'd grabbed me and pulled me inside. Bouncer. Hang on, I'm a bit lost. Me. Look, he's the bouncer. Blue jacket. Security information on his sleeve, and he's got the radio and all that. Look at me. I'm just stood here with a beer in my hand. Girl 1. Forget this. I don't care what you are, but you pushed me to the ground and took my money. Doubling down a little now, as I presume she thought this would help her. Me. I never touched you. I left after you pointed out some people kissing, and you tried to slap me, missed and fell over. What money are you talking about? Thought the mention of money was a bit random. Girl 1. We paid you to get in. They obviously didn't. It wasn't even a bar you paid to get in. Bouncer looks very lost, but seems to be getting an idea that he better react soon. So you hit her and took money off her? Me. No, none of this happened. I think this lot are a bit drunk. Girls 1 through 4 all chime in with various, yes he did, and he stole her purse. Again, another fun little addition. Bouncer. Right, give the purse back. Me. What purse? I don't have a purse. This is all BS. Bouncer speaks into the radio and another bouncer has now shown up. He says he's going to look at the cameras and see what's what. I'm lucky it was a relatively quiet night, as normally I think I'd have just been kicked out of the place just to stop the drama and save time. But as it was slow, they decided to investigate. The girls have all started getting a bit hysterical now they have the real bouncers, and the story has been embellished to include me taking money off of them at the door to let them in, which they want back, of course. The fact I apparently gave one of them a bit of a kicking, and I was supporting the guys who were trying to hurt them. It takes a few minutes, but just as they're whipping themselves up into a frenzy, the bar manager comes out and asks me if I'll go inside to speak to him. I just want to go home now, but as it will get me away from the screeching, I agree. I instantly regret it as I get shepherded into the back of the bar to the little room the security guys use. I assume I'm going to get a kicking, but the manager gets the second bouncer to show me the 2 clips on the security screen. The first one shows me vaguely moving out of the way when they go in the bar, definitely not taking any money. And the second shows me inside the bar talking briefly to girl 1, her going to slap me and tripping herself up. We have a little laugh and they say I'm fine. I say I'm going to go, but they suggest if she calls the police, it might be better if I hang around so it can be sorted out with this evidence. Apparently, it's quite common for people to lose things like purses and try to blame others in pubs. I ask what they're going to do with a group of girls, and they say they're going to be asked to leave. We go back outside, and the girls are still going on about what I apparently did. When the manager asks them to leave, they get really mad for a few seconds protesting. Manager: I've looked at the CCTV, and this guy didn't do anything. You actually tried to attack him. Girl 1: I never. He slapped me and stole my purse. I'm calling the police. Manager: Well, feel free, but as I said, I've got the footage, so you will make yourself look a bit silly. Girl 1: No, I won't. I bet you do this all the time. Rob people and share the money. Bouncer: You've been asked to leave, so please go. I'm not going until he gives me my purse back. Me: I don't have it. Are you sure you didn't drop it when you fell over? I did a smirk a bit here, which may have been an error. Girl 1: You little jerk. She launched herself at me, but the bouncer, with reflexes like a cheetah, manages to catch her in midair and hold her there. This was no mean feat, as she was a pretty large girl. She starts kicking and screaming, but it doesn't seem to trouble him too much. He holds her there for a few seconds as she runs out of steam. Girls 2 through 4 slowly seem to realize it isn't going to work and quiet down and seem to sink back a bit to get away. As girl 1 catches her breath, the 2 girls, 5 and 6, who had been inside and really hadn't been involved at this point, come out of the bar and arm with the 2 guys. Girl 5: Hi, Karen. Not her real name, of course. It was actually Chantel or something. We've bumped into our fellas, so we're heading home. Have a good night. Oh, by the way, here's the purse you asked me to hold. They hand over the purse, which she takes very sheepishly, and girls 5 and 6 leave with the guys. The remaining girls have all but disappeared now, and it appears the show is over. Bouncer releases girl 1 and again asks them to leave. They seem a bit defeated and slink away, apart from girl 1, who is hanging back a bit. She turns to me and looks at me for a second. I was expecting an apology for the misunderstanding or a final "forget you." But she actually says to me, "Will we get in next week?" Me, "Sorry, what do you mean?" "We aren't barred, are we?" Bouncer and manager look at each other and shake their heads a little bit, not quite sure why she still thinks I work there. Me, seizing an opportunity. "You are, I'm afraid. Your friends can come back anytime though." Manager, deciding it's easier to go with me on this one now. "Yes, that's right. I'm afraid we can't have people assaulting the staff. If you leave now, we won't call the police." She then joins the rest of her troupe, and they dejectedly walk away and leave the smoking area and the bar with a bit of muttering. Bouncer, looking a bit confused. "So hang on, do you work here or not?" Me, "No, sorry mate. I just stood in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was just taking the steam out of her at the end." Bouncer, "Okay, so how come she's barred?" Manager, "Don't worry about it. Just get a picture of the video and put her on the wall of shame. I presume this was how they tracked the troublemakers." "Right, all sorted. Talking to me now. Can I get you a drink for all the trouble?" Me, "Better not, boss. Not while I'm working." Cue a wry smile from the manager and a little bit of laughter from the few people who had gathered around and had picked up on what was going on. Sadly, everyone didn't stop and clap, but it was enough for me. Phil and I got a free round of drinks out of it, and I still go to that bar every now and then to this day. Christian, holier-than-thou, entitled mom tries to manipulate me. I gave her a taste of her own medicine. This story happened earlier this week. To preface this, ever since the lockdown started, my church has been having meetings online via live stream. This has extended to small groups, which are now done through Zoom meetings. This particular week was much like the others in terms of small groups, Bible talk, cracking jokes, and discussing pop culture. However, joining us this week was my friend's aunt from out of town, the entitled mom of the story, who, from what I heard, had a tendency to have a holier-than-thou demeanor. At one point of the chat, we got to the topic of hobbies. I took the moment to discuss my hobby of gaming, my big mistake of the story. I talked about my gaming collection of different gaming consoles: Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, PlayStations 1, 2, 3, Wii, Switch, Game Boy Color, and games that I've collected over the years, which my friends found to be fascinating. So, on to the story. Cast. We've got me. We've got entitled mom, my friend's aunt, and we've got my friend. So, about 40 minutes after small group, I get a phone call from my friend's phone number. I picked it up, only to be greeted by his aunt. Entitled mom. "Hello, OP." Me. Entitled mom. What a surprise. "Well, I'm calling you from friend's phone because I wanted to talk to you about something." Me. "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" "During small group, you mentioned that you had a collection of video games and video game systems." Me. "Yeah, what about them?" "Well, you see, it's just that strong Christian men like you shouldn't be wasting time playing video games. You should be dedicating your time towards getting married, starting a family, and teaching them the ways of God and the Bible." Me, dumbfounded. "Wait, what?" Entitled mom. "Remember, the Bible tells men to put away childish things, and video games are definitely under that category." Me, disgusted. "So what are you suggesting I do with my collection then?" Entitled mom. "You should donate it to a child in need. Better yet, my son loves video games, and his birthday is coming up, so you should give it to him. I'm sure he'd be grateful." Me, starting to get real angry. "Well, I'm not sure I would feel comfortable doing that." Entitled mom. "I will tell you what. I'm in town till Wednesday. I'll call you back tomorrow. This gives you plenty of time to pray about it. Hopefully God convicts you to man up and put your childish things away. Good night now." Hangs up. I sat there for a good 15 minutes with anger stewing in mind over the audacity of this entitled mom. I wanted to call her back and curse her out until a light bulb went off in my head. At the moment, an evil Grinch grin had crept across my face. My mind had just formulated a perfect response to entitled mom's request. The next day, I spent the day waiting for friend's aunt to call me. In the evening, the moment came. I saw my friend's number ringing on my phone, and the evil Grinch grin came back to my face. Me. "Why, hello, entitled mom. How are you today?" "I'm doing well. Have you thought about our conversation from yesterday?" Me. "Why, yes, I have. Entitled Mom. What did you decide? Me, in my best, jolly, holier-than-thou Joel Osteen voice. Well, I prayed long and hard about what you said, and I spent some time reading the Bible. Entitled Mom. And? Me. Well, growing boys are very pivotal to the future of the kingdom of God, and building a relationship with Jesus is very important to their upbringing. In all honesty, video games are just going to be a distraction to him, and time spent playing them is better dedicated to learning about the Bible.
But that's...
Remember, Entitled Mom, the book of Proverbs tells us to start children off on the way they should go, and Ephesians tells us to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So, unfortunately, I will have to pass on gifting your son my gaming collection. However, I will gladly send you a children's study Bible and a DVD collection of VeggieTales to friend, and he can send them to you. Entitled Mom.
But wait, it's not going to be an issue.
Me, cutting her off, but still in my jolly, holier-than-thou voice. I'm sorry, Entitled Mom, but I have an important dinner arrangement to go to. Goodbye now. Hangs up. I turned off my phone after that to make sure that the Entitled Mom couldn't call me back. Later on that night, friend sent me a message on Facebook apologizing for his aunt's behavior. Apparently, she took his phone behind his back to make both calls, and he got really upset when he found out about what Entitled Mom was asking of me. But at the end of the day, I still have my collection and my hobby. Mario Kart, anyone? Speaking of video games, what systems do you like to play? Or do you stick to PC? Please let us know your favorite console of all time.
My son just loves the Nintendo Switch, and I love stealing them from people.
I want the original price worth of value. The other day, I had a couple of middle-aged women that came in for a return, claiming their phone screen protector was defective and that they had purchased it earlier that day. They installed it themselves, but there's a strange adhesive that's dried and fixed to the plastic. Definitely not their fault. It's a cheaper protector marked down from $40 to $10 on clearance. Not a big deal. It's an easy replacement. Sure, I say. It's defective. We'll return or exchange it for you. Thank you, Woman A replies. Are we able to swap it for one of the $40 ones? We can get you one of those. So I select the appropriate glass protector and ring it at the till. $30 plus taxes is the difference. No, that's wrong, she decrees. That's not what I'm paying, is it? That's correct. $40 minus $10 equals $30. That's how much you owe. Woman A.
But the one I purchased is regularly priced at $40. You should give me that value for the protector back.
Me. Did you pay $40 for the screen protector?
Well, no, but that one,
she points to the defective plastic discarded to the side of the till,
isn't any good, and I want the value of it back.
You're getting the value of it back. We can swap it for the same one if you'd like, and we can verify that it's in working condition, hoping to provide a solution. But it's met with an indignant,
no, there's no way to check if the plastic is damaged before you unpeel it. Otherwise, I would have seen it beforehand.
Let's check. And so I open the case, and voila, the plastic is perfectly intact.
Okay, so you're going to install it for me on my phone?
Sure, it's a $15 charge for us to install it. We're happy to do it for you.
But it's $0 for me, because I'm such a great customer.
She was, in fact, not a great customer. Nope, I can swap the protector or I can refund you the money.
I want to speak to your manager.
Sure, I'm the senior employee in our electronics department. What do you want to speak about? The management for this department won't be in until tomorrow. The management on duty are from different areas, and they will tell you the same thing. I can offer you a refund for your screen case or exchange of the value you paid. But I'm not giving you $55 worth of product for free when you've only spent $10 here.
Is there a store manager I can talk to?
Let me call over Miss Manager. She's management. After a minute, Miss Manager comes over to speak with the customer. Woman A.
Hi, you're the manager. This man has been presenting himself as management, and he is refusing to help me. I wanted to exchange this phone screen, and he's not giving me the value of it back.
Miss Manager. Well, he knows more about this than I do. What did you say? I repeat the same thing I've been saying for the last 5 minutes. We can refund you your money, or you can put the $10 towards a different screen protector. Miss Manager. That sounds reasonable to me. Which option would you like? Woman A.
This is unbelievable. Your other locations don't treat me this poorly.
I want the value of my case. It's $40. Me, we're offering you the value back. You paid $10, you get $10. Just because it's on clearance doesn't mean you get the original price back. Woman B,
Come on, let's just take our business to the other store. They at least know how customer service works.
Woman A agrees, and the pair leave, without returning their screen protector they had spent 20 minutes arguing about. Me, okay, have a nice day. Do you think they should have let her do the exchange? A lot of places actually will, just to get rid of the problematic customer. But what do you think? Please let us know.
Of course they should have. She deserved it.
My dad says he'll pick me up at dark. Well, he hasn't picked me up, so it must not be dark. This happened about 10 years ago now, and I have a good chuckle about it every time I pass the place in my car. I'm a pretty meek guy, so this is probably the only rebellious thing I did in my entire teenage life. My dad owns a farm, and being his son, this meant that I had a job when I was a kid, whether I liked it or not. Mostly I understood this, but that didn't mean I had to like it. I resented having to spend my entire days of summer vacation, dawn to dusk, in a tractor when it came time to harvest alfalfa, which we did about 4 times between spring and fall. Basically, imagine a teenager with ADHD forced to sit in one place for 14 hours, and you'll understand how it felt. Honestly, if I wasn't a total introvert, I might have snapped sooner. So anyway, it's the second day of harvest. I've spent about 20 hours in total in a haybine by this point over the past few days, and I ask my dad which fields to cut next, and I ask him when I'll be done, hoping, in vain, that I can leave and go play video games or whatever. This is where the titular line comes in. I'll pick you up at dark. Little does he know that my little teenage heart is clenching with righteous anger for all this wasted, paid time. So several hours pass, and I'm understandably getting pretty irritable. It starts getting dark, and guess what? No sign of my dad. At the time, it was becoming a bit of a recurring joke in my family about how my dad was always late, so I knew I was in for the long haul. Then it occurred to me, and the malicious compliance begins. My dad said he'd pick me up at dark, and he wasn't picking me up. So that must mean that it wasn't dark yet. And what don't you need if it's not dark outside? That's right, headlights. So I continue going back and forth on this wide, empty field, squinting as the light continues to fade after sunset, and stubbornly refuse to turn on the headlights. I can easily see the edges of the field, of course, but everything else is blending in pretty well. I start purposely and accidentally leaving some shark fins, which is what we call the mistakes that hay bean operators leave between rows when they don't get any alfalfa. A few small shark fins per field are fine, even expected, but these are on a whole new level. My dad shows up after around 30 minutes of total darkness. I forget our exact conversation, but I do remember the result. After asking me why I didn't turn on the lights, and me telling him why, he laughed uproariously, and I still remember it fondly to this day. I never did get any punishment. I'm not even sure he understood the extent of the missed alfalfa. It was dark after all, and it was hard to see in the dim moonlight. But whatever, it was just a few rows. I, however, like to think he was a little proud of me, because I was the type of teenager who never got into mischief. I asked him about it recently, and unfortunately, he has no memory of the incident. Oh well. I, however, will probably remember this little bit of malicious compliance fondly for the rest of my life. It might have been pretty insignificant and motivated by laziness, but it was also the first time I really stood up for myself against an authority figure. Have any of you guys ever lived on a farm? And if not, would you like to? Please let us know.
I need to have neighbors close by so that I can use them when I need stuff.
No, I am not staff, and no, you can't crash my dad's wedding. About a year ago, my dad was getting married. As it was his second wedding, he did not want it to be a huge event, and neither did his fiancée. Thus, they decided to have their wedding with just 17 guests at the bookstore where they met. Aw, it was cute, and I wanted to throw up. He asked me and my sisters to guide the other guests to the room where the ceremony would be held since we were there early to set up. The bookstore was something of a maze, as bookstores often are. My dad's wedding was being held on the second floor, so my sisters and I were stationed at various places on the first floor leading to the stairs, which were hidden in a little corner in the back. My sisters and I were dressed up, but not wearing name tags or aprons like the people who actually worked at the bookstore. That did not stop a parade of people stopping by and asking where to find certain books. I don't know what it was about my appearance in particular, but most customers came to me instead of my sisters. I get that I was standing in a particular spot and that I could have looked like I was there to answer questions, but the staff were busy shelving books, dusting, making coffee, and generally being busy, so I would have been a pretty lousy staff member just standing around like that. One customer in particular approached me and asked if I knew where the painting that used to hang in the store was now. I answered that I did not work here and was simply guiding guests to the room where my dad's wedding was to be held. The man looked incredulous and asked me several more questions about the painting, including who the artist was, where the medium was, the size of the painting, and what the subject was. After I answered that I did not know any of those things, he was satisfied that I did not in fact work at the bookstore. He then proceeded to say how much he loved weddings, no matter who was getting married. He asked where the wedding was being held and if he could go take a peek. I answered that that would be really weird, given that it's a private ceremony, and my dad would probably appreciate it if he didn't. He laughed it off and said, well, I'll come by and crash the wedding later. I just love weddings so much." I practically begged him to not crash my dad's wedding, even just to watch, because there were so few guests that it would just be painfully awkward to have some random man smiling in the back. After a few moments of us going back and forth and him promising he'd be there whether we liked it or not, he finally agreed to leave the wedding alone. He stayed for a suspiciously long time in the bookstore, watching all the guests come in. He smiled ridiculously as my now stepmother walked in with her dress and headed upstairs, provoking her to ask me and my sisters, "Who is that creepy smiling guy standing around watching the entourage?" We responded, "He's just some guy who really likes weddings," and asked if he could crash yours. To our great relief, he did not show up at the ceremony, but the whole time I was worried about it. Sorry for being distracted during your wedding, Dad. Have you ever been to a wedding? And if so, did you like it? Please let us know.
Oh, I just love crashing weddings, especially when the food is good.
Must attend interview in person. I was working for a university in the UK as an admissions officer when I decided to apply for the role of senior admissions officer in the same office. I submitted my application and didn't hear anything for a while. A week or so later, I was abroad for a week to visit my family when I received an email to confirm that I got invited for an interview the next day at 9 a.m. I replied and asked if we could postpone the interview until Monday because I'd be back by then, but they refused. The lady who refused was my current manager, and she knew I was abroad, so I didn't think this was very fair. I asked if we could do the interview over Skype instead, but she also refused this. The interview time was set, and if I was interested, I would be there. Otherwise, it's my loss. I was ticked off, as I couldn't believe how inflexible they were. I started rereading the email again and decided to go through the attachments to see what I had to prepare for the interview. I noticed they added a travel expense form which stated that if you travel from 5 miles or further, you could claim your expenses. Being abroad in Europe is definitely over 5 miles, so I decided to drive to the airport, booked the last flight, which was £350 for a one-way flight, got a cab from the airport, and stayed in a hotel near the university as my house would have been at the other side of London. I made it to the interview in time, and they were shocked to see me, as they obviously didn't expect me. The interview went well, but I did not get the job. When I handed in my expense claim form, I was advised that it only applied to UK travel, and they refused to pay. I asked them why they sent me the claim form when they knew I was traveling in from abroad, and said that nowhere on the form did it state it was for the UK travel only. They said it was their policy, but I was not allowed to view said policy. I was due a lot of money, so I decided to file a Freedom of Information request for them to provide the policy. This appeared to be a historical policy, and as they could not send me the evidence, they decided to pay my travel expenses, which came to a total of over £550. The policy has been updated since. I don't work here, lady. I used to live here. 2 weeks ago, I was helping my dad install several new sets of doors to our old house. We moved into our new house just over 2 months ago, and we've been renovating our old house to rent out, rather than try to sell it due to current circumstances. We've basically completely redone the house aesthetically with new paint, new flooring, even some upgrades to make it more attractive and warrant a better price for it. We made the decision to rent our house through a property management company. The company basically acts as a middleman that handles any issues with the tenants, so my parents, who own the house, aren't acting as direct landlords. And since we were just about done cleaning up the house to make it attractive to potential tenants, and it had passed inspection, our last-minute door change was approved by the agency. One of the employees from the company was offering tours to potential tenants they'd organized by appointment. It was around noon that the employee had just done the last of her rounds with potential tenants for the day, and she offered me a small stack of her personal cards so anyone who came through interested in our house could call her to arrange a tour. I took the stack of cards and put it in my pocket, promising I'd hand the cards to any potential tenants who expressed interest. About an hour or so passed, and I'd taken a break to have some lunch. I was sitting on the porch and looking out at the "For Rent" sign when a lady came trotting down the sidewalk. She looked at the sign and then looked up at me, the stocky Hispanic kid in jeans, a t-shirt, and some Vans, and marched her way up the walkway to the house. Lady: "Excuse me, are you doing tours of this rental? I'd like to see the inside." I stood up, brushing off one hand to dig through my jeans pocket and pull out the company lady's cards to peel one off for her. Me: "The company actually just finished tours for the day, but they gave me these cards. Here's the lady managing the property. You can give her a call and set up a tour of the property." Lady: "Can't you give me a tour?" Me: I mean, I don't work for the company, so I can't give you any official tour. Better for you to call the company and set up an appointment. They're the professionals." Lady: "You don't work for the company? Then what are you doing here?" Me: "Installing some new doors. The company told us it was okay, so we just—" "So you do work for the company?" She said this as if she had just riddled out some great mystery. Me: "Look, lady, I don't work for the company. My dad's the owner of this property, and he arranged with the company to handle the renting of this house. I'm helping him install new doors so the house that I grew up in can be more attractive to potential tenants. Now, if you want a tour, you can call the lady handling the renting of this house. Here's her card. Have a nice day." The lady just looked at the card, looked at me, and something must have clicked in her head because she just took the card and walked off. The rest of the afternoon went pretty smooth. I handed out about a dozen cards to other people who were interested in renting, and the lady handling our house called my dad to thank me once we got home. Speaking of house upgrades, what was the last upgrade you did to your house? We'd love to hear from you. We just got a beautiful piece for the living room that says "Live, Laugh, Love." One of my favorite sayings. Karen calls cops on Amazon driver. This just happened yesterday, and I am still trying to gather my thoughts. I was driving a route that was given to me when I came into a neighborhood where there were some cones on the road close to the curb to let other drivers know that kids were playing outside. These cones were the small regular orange ones with a light at the top of it to make them more noticeable. The kids were playing in the yard, and it was very big to run around in without running into the streets. They were nowhere close to the road at all. Despite what people have said about Amazon drivers, we usually do follow the rules since we have people at the warehouse, including Amazon, watching us. I was driving a little below the speed limit since I saw the cones on the road and wanted to be respectful. Apparently, this wasn't slow enough for the mother who was outside watching the kids. She decided to start walking to my van, and for her safety, I started slowing down so I didn't hurt her since she was getting closer to my van. As she is walking, she is yelling at me. Entitled Mom: "Slow down. There are kids playing outside, and your reckless driving could hurt someone." Me: "No, I was driving the speed limit. Plus, your kids are nowhere near the road. I can see your cones and know that the kids are playing." "I don't care if they are in the road or not. You need to be more considerate of other people than yourself." This carried on for a few more minutes, me telling to her and her yelling to me. I didn't want to deal with her anymore, so I started driving off. She decided to get in front of my van in the middle of the road to stop me from driving. I yelled at her to move, and she put her hands on her hips to say, "I'm not going anywhere." I didn't want to deal with this crazy lady anymore and needed to deliver more packages, so I turned my van to the left, and then she moved to the left. I turned my van to the right, and again, she turned to the right. At this point, I am a little past her driveway, so I started backing up, and she started yelling at me more. "I know your job is hard, but you need to listen to me." Me: "Please just go away." You need to stop driving so fast. At this point, the father comes outside and tells the mother to calm down and stop yelling. As I am backing up, I barely touch one of the cones on the ground. The father starts yelling about how I destroyed his cones and how expensive they are, and tells me how I owe them money for the cone. I park my van, and the mother is extremely close to my van now. I open my door to look at the damage, and the mother jumps in front of my door and then starts crying that I hit her with my van. You hit me with your van. I can't believe you hit me. Entitled father. I can't believe you just hit my wife. I'm calling the cops on you. You're not going anywhere. I get back in my van and call my dispatcher to let them know what was going on so I didn't get into trouble for being late to my next drop. Our deliveries are time-based, and we can get into trouble if we sit too long. The police arrive and they come up to me and ask about what happened. The father and mother jumps in first. Entitled mom. This man was speeding down the road at a high rate, and I tried yelling at him to slow down. He almost hit one of my kids. Then he got mad at me telling him to slow down and reversed his van and destroyed our cones. Then he slammed his door into me, hurting me in the process. Entitled father. I paid a lot of money for those cones, and this guy destroys them all because he got mad at my wife. The cones are to protect the kids from drivers like him. He needs to pay for my cones. Me. You both are lying. I was driving a very slow speed when the mother decided that I was going too fast and stopped me in the middle of the road. Then, when I tried to leave, I accidentally touched one of the cones, not even damaged, and the father started yelling at me and called you guys. As for hitting her, she jumped in front of my door as I opened it, I assumed to falsify her getting hit. The officers looked at the cones and see that there is no damage to it, and then went to the mother and told her, Police officer, you know it's illegal in the state of Texas to stop a moving vehicle in the middle of the road. You are not allowed to block any kind of traffic. If anyone has to pay anything, it will be you paying a ticket. I asked the police if I may go, and he said yes. I really don't like losing time and didn't want to be there longer than I needed to. I don't know what ended up happening to the mother or father, but I wish I could have remembered their address, just so I could put a little piece of paper on their door that reads, Ha ha. Entitled parent has no courtesy. So the entitled parent of my story is the worst kind of them all. It's the kind you can't get away from because it's my own mother. Today we went over to my grand's apartment for lunch. A thing to note is that in my country, it's common to have maids, but my grandparents, and my family until recently, don't have any. This is important for later into the story. My grandmother is very active in the church, so there was an event today and no one else wanted to go, so I went instead. Before heading to the event, I ordered a pizza for the family because no one wanted to cook. The event lasted for about 1.5 hours, mostly just waiting around for the priest to show up and chatting with my grandmother's friends. Once it finished, we packed up and headed back to her place. Since we took so long, everyone else ate already, and it was just me and her left eating at the table. After we finished, she was the only one cleaning. I tried to help, but she insisted I didn't. Meanwhile, my mom was sitting at the sofa, not moving. Mind you, they left a bit of a mess as well. Now, this is where the no maids comes into play. For a good 9 months, we only had a cleaning lady come on weekends. At first, I was the one cleaning the house and the dishes, and we would have the laundry done on the weekends. I soon got tired of this because my mom was a mess. It would come to a point where she would leave plates, cups, and utensils in the sink, bedside table, dining table, anywhere she could put them really, all unwashed for days, sometimes weeks. Her laundered clothes would be stacked on chairs and the side of her bed. She would never sweep her room or wipe any of the surfaces. She had dogs that just left and would let their poop accumulate in the backyard. Mind you, she would never walk the dogs at all, and one of them is a lab that was wildly untrained and out of control. She even bit my dog, but that's a story for another time. And these dogs managed to go from fat and fluffy to skinny little things because she forgot to feed them. Basically, She was operating as if we still had people to pick up after her. Whenever I would lecture her about it, she would say,
Those aren't mine. I didn't use those.
or when she couldn't use that excuse,
Don't worry, I'll get to it.
we got into a huge argument because she didn't want to even look for new maids and stated,
Well, we can just clean the house ourselves.
the point was she couldn't even clean after herself. I realized that during the time we didn't have maids, she would spend more and more time at my grandmother's house. All those times my mother didn't come home while we were maidless, this is what she was doing to her. She was leaving her 65-year-old mom to clean by herself while she relaxed on the sofa watching TV. She basically had a free maid to cook and clean after her. This was probably going on for the longest time, and I couldn't fathom how someone could just leave their mother to do all the work. It was one thing to be lazy in your own home, but in someone else's? My grandmother afterwards started folding clothes, so I started helping her out. Meanwhile, my mom is still relaxing on the couch. When it got really late, like 12, my sister wanted to leave as she was the one driving. My mom took forever to get up. My sister got so upset she left. So what does my mom do? She then asks my gran for a glass of water when she was literally 5 steps away from the kitchen. After a while, I told my mom to hurry up because sister was waiting for her, and it looked to me like she was taking her sweet time. She then snapped with a,
Yeah, wait, my foot is wet.
When she was done, she was still looking around, not caring about how long she was taking. When we finally left the condo 15 minutes later, we went down and had to walk and look for my sister a bit because she moved the car. When we got in, my mom threw my sister's bag out of her way so she could sit. My sister's laptop was in the backpack, and of course, my sister is mad and says, "What the heck? Don't throw my things. My laptop is in there. Hand me my laptop now." Mom is huffing and shoves the bag to my sister. My sis hadn't put the car on neutral, so I tell her to give it to me so I can check it while she drives. After I make sure it's okay, my mom asks for the laptop and she shoves it back into my sister's bag. She's still upset for no reason. I can tell because of the way the laptop thuds when it's tossed into the bag, and I can hear her zip the bag roughly. She doesn't even apologize and huffs and puffs in the back seat. I proceed to drown her out with rap music. This is the other entitled parent that I think receives little attention and exposure. The kind that believes they don't need to have basic courtesy because
We're family.
and
When you live with someone, it's obvious you'll see them at their worst.
her words. It's the kind that chirps away at you every day with the small things they do because they can't empathize with anyone but themselves. Give my son a backstage pass. Bit of backstory. I, 21 male, work for a private company that gets hired out to work load-ins and load-outs for gigs that happen around my city and sometimes further afield. Our main client is the arena in my city. We don't work directly for any of the venues we get hired by, and we also have strict rules when it comes to the performer whose gig we're working at. If we should meet the performer or a member of one of the bands, other than a polite greeting, we're not allowed to initiate a conversation unless they do it first. A speak when you're spoken to kind of rule. This will become relevant later. There's also 3 groups of people who work at these gigs. The stage crew, that's us, who will be wearing a hard hat, a high visibility vest, a random shirt, cargo trousers or cargo shorts, any colors, and steel-toe capped boots. The security guys, who wear a yellow jacket with the company's name on it, with black trousers and boots, and the arena staff, who wear a black polo shirt or hoodie with the name of the arena sewn on, and black trousers and boots. This is also relevant later. A bit of backstory on the entitled mom. She's a friend of my mother's, maybe in her late 40s or early 50s. She has a son who's maybe 15 or 16. I had never really spoken to her before this point, other than a polite greeting if we bump into her at a supermarket. Her and my mother will talk for ages if this happens, and she seemed nice enough. My mother is also the humble brag type of person. She'll brag about my sister's accomplishments and my accomplishments to anyone who will give her the time of day. For example, the other day I found out I had passed my college course and will be heading down to a different city for university later this year. As soon as I told my mother, she was straight on the phone to various friends to tell them. She's far from entitled though. So, before the lockdown restrictions, a band who is fairly popular, especially with the younger people, played a gig at our arena, and I got the call to work at the gig. The day before the gig, my mother got a phone call from Entitled Mom. I was in my room doing whatever, and my mother knocks on the door and says, "OP, it's Entitled Mom. She wants to talk to you." She hands me the phone and goes back downstairs. Me, "Hello?" Entitled Mom,
Hi, OP. Your mother tells me you work at the arena now.
Me, "Sort of. I work for a private company that the arena hires to set up shows and tear them down."
Cool. Will you be working at the concert tomorrow?
Me, "Yup." Entitled Mom,
Cool. Kid will be attending the show with his dad. Would you be able to get him backstage afterwards? He'd love to meet the band.
Quick side note here. The arena doesn't do backstage passes, and they don't let the public backstage after gigs. Some bands will offer VIP upgrades to their tickets where you get to meet the band before the gig and sometimes some other cool stuff as well. Not every band does these though. They're also usually quite expensive. I got a VIP upgrade for a gig for my mother for my birthday last year, which included an exclusive soundcheck performance, Q&A with the band, photo opportunity, and a couple of other things. This was £75 on top of the £35 ticket. Me, "We don't work directly with the band. Usually we don't even get to meet the artists we work with. Have you checked to see if the band are doing VIP upgrades?"
I don't think they are. Plus, it'd probably be really expensive. The ticket price was bad enough.
Me, "Fair point. Sorry, I don't think I can help you. I don't think the arena does backstage passes and don't normally let members of the public backstage." Entitled Mom is clearly annoyed by this.
Okay. Can you ask around tomorrow at the load-in shift?
Me, "Nope. The arena probably won't budge unless your kid is really ill or in a wheelchair."
How dare you speak to me like that? Hand me back to your mother.
I go back downstairs and hand the phone to my mother. Entitled Mom tells her that I was rude to her and refused to get her son backstage. My mother told her that she'd deal with me and hung up the phone. She then told me that Entitled Mom threatened to come down to the arena and give me a piece of her mind. She then told me to not worry. She knew I wouldn't be as rude to her as she was making out and that she probably wouldn't follow through on her threat. The next evening, I arrived at the arena with a couple of my colleagues at 9:30 p.m., about half an hour before our call time. Our call time is usually half an hour before the show finishes, to give our boss time to make sure everyone who said they'd turn up has turned up, and so we can find out our role for the load time, lighting, stage, trucks, etc. Get our color-coded high-vis, which we occasionally get to keep and wear at future gigs, and our sub-crew manager, for whichever role we've been given, can explain the game plan for the shift. The security guys also don't let us in until our boss arrives with a list of who's working that shift. So, once we were suited and booted, we headed to the gate to wait for the boss, and I lit up a cigarette and scrolled through my phone. About 10 minutes before call, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Entitled Mom storming up the path of the side of the arena towards me. I put my phone in my pocket and prepared for the verbal storm I was about to endure. Entitled Mom,
OP, your mother said you'd get kid backstage after the gig. Hand me your pass.
She held out her hand expectantly. I don't have my pass yet. The boss hasn't turned up. Anyway, my pass is a work pass, so unless Kid wants to work tearing down the show, it was a heck of a show to set up, so it'd be even more fun tearing it down. Sarcasm. My pass is worthless to you. I'm pretty sure he's too young to work it anyway. You have to be 18 to work for our company.
Surely you had a pass for the morning. Give me that.
Me, that was for the morning. It's expired now. Entitled Mom turns red. At this point, one of my colleagues notices the commotion and heads over. Colleague, hey OP, what's going on? Before I could get a word in, Entitled Mom yells in her face.
This boy said he could get my son backstage after the gig, and now he's refusing to let him in. Give me his pass.
Colleague, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not the boss. I don't have the passes. His pass is a work pass. We're not even allowed to speak to the band, let alone ask them for favors. Entitled Mom started yelling a blue streak at my colleague and then got the attention of the security guard. Security, what's going on here? Entitled Mom,
he said my son could get backstage to meet the band, and now he's saying no.
The security guard glances at Entitled Mom, then me, then Entitled Mom, and then me again, with a suspicious look on his face. Security, is that true, sir? You know the rules in regards to this sort of thing. Me, no. I've repeatedly told her I can't get her backstage, even if I wanted to. Security, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Quite frankly, he's not my staff. And I don't care if he gets crap from people, but his boss definitely won't appreciate anyone harassing his employees like this. Entitled Mom.
I'm not leaving until my son can go backstage.
The security guard lifts up the walkie-talkie in his jacket as if he was about to summon more security to physically remove Entitled Mom. Before he could press a button, Entitled Mom gave off a massive and stormed off. As she was leaving, everyone else around started bawling with laughter, and she turned around and shot us a glare that could kill Thanos if looks could kill, and we all unanimously gave her the finger. That gave those of us that were there a good laugh and a bit of pre-work entertainment, and really boosted our morale for the entire shift. So thank you, Entitled Mom. Your entitled idiocy meant we went to work happy. Have any of you ever been to a concert? If so, what concert was it? We would love to hear from you.
Ariana Grande for the win.
Hero manager takes revenge on terrible repeat customers. I waited tables back in the late 90s. Sunday was always busy right after lunch. This one couple was there every Sunday, sometimes just the two of them, but often with 5 to 10 others. They were very demanding, rude, and never left a tip. After drawing a huge zero on the tip line, they'd hand in the credit card receipt to the server and say, "Sorry, we only tip God on Sundays. We tithe at church." Their bills ran from $200 to $600. From that day on, servers refused to wait on them. Arguments ensued, and the manager finally agreed that he'd be the one to serve them. The customers thought he did this because they were special. These people drank a lot. Bellinis, margaritas, and daiquiris, fruity drinks you couldn't taste the booze in. 10 times out of 10, they'd complain that there was no alcohol in them and demand another shot. We said fine, but told them they had to pay for it. They'd argue, complain, moan, huff and puff, and finally relent. The kicker was that they wouldn't just accept the shots and shot glasses so they could add it themselves. They demanded the original drinks be taken back to the bartender because they wanted a professional to do it. The manager, ever so patient, would then collect all their glasses and haul them back to the bar. Meanwhile, they'd send their food back, berate any employees walking by because the room was too cold or too warm, toss trash in the center of the room, and then demand discounts for everything. One Sunday, I was at the bar waiting for drinks when the manager plunked down a tray with 6 daiquiris, all returned by that table. The printer rang out, as he had put in an order for shots to be added to them. Knowing the habit they had of returning their drinks, he had asked if they wanted an extra shot before putting the drink order in. They acted offended and accused him of trying to force them to spend money on something they may not need. So he went through the motions of bringing them out, having them taste it, and the eventual complaint that they were too good to have alcohol in them. The bartender reached for the tray of drinks, but he stopped her. He smiled, asked her about her day so far. She replied, and they BS'd for a minute. Then he picked up the tray and started walking back to the dining room. The bartender started to say something, but he said loudly, "Thanks so much," and kept walking. He delivered the daiquiris back to the table, where they all sucked on their straws and agreed it was much better. When the bill came, as usual, they didn't tip him a penny. At the end of the shift, the manager called for an impromptu meeting. We all converged in the bar area and watched as he went behind the counter and poured several shots of rum. He handed them out to us and then held his own up to toast. This shot is compliments of Table 44 today, their way of apologizing for treating you all so terribly. And that's how it worked every Sunday afterward. They came in, demanded more booze, paid for it, thought they got it, and then after we closed, the staff enjoyed a drink on their behalf. Those who didn't drink were comped a meal. Those horrible people were finally banned months later after throwing a plate of food on the floor because their fries were not crispy enough. We were glad to see them go, but also missed the mini happy hour that they had allowed us to enjoy. Have you ever sent anything back because it didn't taste right? If so, how did it go? Please let us know.
I do all the time. If I'm paying for it, I deserve something good.
I can't fix a fence I don't own. A few years ago, I was walking my dog past a rowboat club place where they do races and lessons. Sometimes for events, the parking lot gets pretty full, and it was one of those days. As I walked past the parking lot, an angry gentleman got my attention. Disgruntled rowboat boomer. "You really need to fix that fence. It's been like that for 6 months." He gestures to the fence between the rowing club and the house next door, which is broken and has fallen across part of the parking lot. Me, confused but trying to be sympathetic. "I'm sorry, I don't work here." Him. "I know that, but that's your fence, so you need to fix it. Listen, I know it broke because of all that heavy snow we got this winter, but it's been 6 months. It's taking up 2, maybe 3 parking spots. Me. Oh, that's not my house either. He scowls in utter disbelief. What do you mean, that's not your house? Me. I'm just walking my dog. I live half a mile away. Him. I've seen you around there. It's not that hard. You pick up a phone book. You look up fence repair. It's absolutely ridiculous. Every time I come here, it's a giant pain in my butt to find parking. Me. That's really annoying, but I don't live there, so I can't help you. Him. Well, she's your neighbor then. Can't you tell her to fix her fence? Me. She's not really my neighbor. Like I said, I live half a mile away. But you talked to her. I saw you talk to her. This has been going on for 6 months, and nothing's changed. I realized he just wanted to yell at somebody, so I finally walked away. I wished I threw his phone book comment at him and told him he should look up any random person and yell at them instead. They have just as much to do with this as me. Yes, I am the temporary manager. Karens really don't believe you if you look young, huh? A bit about me so it's easier to understand the situation. About 1.5 years ago, I worked at a grocery store, one of many, and I got the job as a manager. Now, note, I wasn't a full manager. I was simply filling in till someone else comes in, as I did not have the full training for it. I had only worked at the store for 8 months, but was more than capable of doing a manager's job. Ordering, counting the money, closing up and opening, making sure everything is up to date. I was doing my job. I did, however, look young, as I actually was. The store I worked in had many rude customers who would walk in looking to cause trouble as if God had sent them on a mission and said, "Go, my child, ruin some poor cashier's day." So, a day like any other. I'm in the dairy section looking for things that are going out of date. The only employees are 2 cashiers, 1 janitor, and me. I hear a commotion at the cash registers, but since my coworkers are way older than me, I figure they can handle the situation. Keyword, figure. I hear someone stamping towards me. It's like the gates of heck opened, and this absolute unit of a Karen marches towards me, her face filled with anger. She takes a look at me, turns around, and stomps back. What? I clearly have a little name badge which says OP, Manager. I heard commotion again, but I am on a tight schedule here, so I continue taking out all of the bad cheese. Not 1 minute later, I hear stomping again, and the most annoying, squeaky voice she asks, "Are you the manager?" Me. Yes, how may I help you? Karen. No, you can't be the manager. You are an imposter. I know all the employees in this store, and you are not one. I don't know why she's screaming at me, but in a calm voice I say, I am the temporary manager. Is there anything I can do for you? She yells, I demand the real manager. A kid like you cannot be one. Give me the real manager. I try to explain that I am one, but she keeps screaming like a pig. I tell her that she can call my boss. There's a number near the exit on the board, and she storms out. I hear her complaining about how I'm a liar and won't get the real manager out, how there's a kid at the store who is working illegally, how I'm incompetent and should be fired if I really work there. 10 minutes later, my boss pulls up, explains to the Karen that I am in fact a manager, and asks again how I could help. Turns out, she ate a whole 24-pack of sausages and only then noticed they were 3 days till the expiration date, not even expired, and demands a refund. She got kicked out. Speaking of groceries, where do you get your groceries from? Please let us know. I prefer Kroger myself. Wearing combat boots during nursing school. Back when I was in nursing school, we were supposed to wear black, non-porous, closed-toed footwear with non-skid soles for our clinical rotations that weren't Crocs. Most of my fellow female students wore classic nursing clogs like Dascos and Sanitas. I tried wearing clogs like this in the past and had rolled my ankles too many times to recall, so I decided to not go that route for shoes. I'm a military spouse, a vet myself, and have aforementioned messed up ankles, so my footwear of choice was a pair of black leather tactical combat boots. As a show of support, and to make sure I always looked sharp at clinical, my hubby always shined up and edge-dressed my boots every evening before clinical the next morning. The boots always looked professional. They were comfy as heck. I could bump my toes into beds without breaking a toe, and I could wear them all day without having back pain, foot pain, or rolling an ankle. The same could not be said for my classmates wearing more traditional shoes like clogs. During the first week of my first semester, I had an old school nurse as my clinical instructor. I say old school because she believed female nurses should still be wearing crisp white uniforms with that stupid starched hat, and that our profession lost prestige when we transitioned to scrubs. This instructor got such a bee in her bonnet about my boots and decided that my boots were out of regulation that she threatened to take it up with the director and have me tossed from clinical, thus failing the program. There was nothing in the handbook specifically stating I couldn't wear my boots since it just stated footwear, which was black, well-maintained, non-skid, and non-porous. Check, 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 check. Furthermore, the pair of boots that I wore were meant to be worn by EMTs, so they were waterproof, bloodborne pathogen resistant, puncture-proof, oil-proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. They were just as expensive as clogs and could handle a lot more. I knew I was in the clear, and so I decided to keep on wearing them. The day after the instructor commented on the inappropriateness of my boots, she did a uniform/shoe inspection to make sure we were appropriately attired. I, of course, was wearing my nicely polished combat boots. She failed me for the day based on my boots, so I politely objected, stating that my boots fell within the definitions of acceptable footwear in the handbook. She literally marched me to the director's office like I was a kid caught stealing cookies and demanded I get tossed out for the boots, failure to follow program rules, and disrespect because I objected to her failing me. The program director, upon further close reading of the program regs, determined that there was nothing that was wrong with the boots. They adhered to the standards set forth by the program, and that they were honestly safer than most of the shoes the other students were wearing because they were waterproof, puncture-proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. She rescinded my fail and allowed me back in clinical. After that, I heard not a peep about my boots from any of the faculty the rest of the program. Fast forward to graduation. I had been wearing combat boots since I started and had no intention of stopping, especially since many of the vets that I cared for during clinical always reacted positively to them. Our nursing pinning ceremony, the event where we receive our nursing school pins and are officially recognized as nurses, has an all-white dress code, white uniforms, starched white hats, white closed-toed footwear. The word footwear is key. The dress code did not state shoes specifically, and I knew this. Same jerky old bat nurse sees me in the hall and makes it a point to tell me I'll have to get some real white nursing shoes to wear to pinning since I can't obviously wear my black combat boots because we needed to have white footwear. I politely smiled, nodded, said that I'd have white footwear, and went on my merry way. And then wore the all-white Doc Marten combat boots my infantryman husband bought me as a graduation gift to pinning. The instructor stopped me after the ceremony and complimented me on actually getting nursing shoes, at which point I pulled up the leg of my white scrubs and showed her my boots. The look on her face was priceless. Have any of you ever worn boots? And if so, did you like them? Please let us know.
I like those boots with the fur, apple-bottom jeans.
The Angry Lady and the Check, the first attempt. At the time this story takes place, I was a young assistant manager of a clothing store in training to take over the store from the existing manager who was moving on to another store that was set to open soon. During my training, it was made clear to me that we could only accept checks, paper checks, that should give you an idea when this took place, that were drawn on a bank located in our state. We were forbidden from accepting starter checks, checks where you had to write in the name and address, as well as checks drawn on banks that were out of state, even if that bank also had branches in our state. Now, the first two were down to simple fraud, as there was, at the time, a thing where people would deposit the minimum amount to open an account, get the starter or write-in checks, and go on a spending spree. It'd take 3 or 4 days for the fraud to be found out, and by then, the person was long gone. The last one, the out-of-state thing though, well, that one was harder to explain. See, at the time, the state I was in had this law on the books that basically stated that if a person from out of state bounced a check, then that person would be charged with felony fraud charges, even if it was the first time, or just a simple mistake. Furthermore, any employee who accepted an out-of-state check, regardless of how long they had worked for the company, would be fired on the spot. So, on to the story. It's getting close to Christmas, and business is booming, even for our small store. It's apparent we're going to make well above what we had projected of making in sales based on past sales. I'm doing my thing in the men's department, working on selling a suit to a gentleman, when a call comes over the PA. Management to women's apparel for customer assistance? Okay, that's rare. Usually meant some customer was acting like a jerk to a cashier for something. But truth be known, that rarely happened. Usually the customer just came to track down any available manager. I pass my sale off to the clerk and head over in the direction of women's apparel. Dot, not her name, the women's department manager, is standing at the register with this lady who I'll call Princess due to how she was acting. Dot says something to the lady whose face is messed up, like she took a massive bite out of a salted lemon, and then heads my way. Mr. Fox, we have something of a problem here, Dot says. Gee, you think? I find myself thinking as Dot explains. The lady in question had been shopping for Christmas gifts for her family and had pulled together close to $2,000 worth of various kinds of clothing, shoes, and cologne/perfume items. What's more, she had asked to pay with a check. Ah, so you need me to verify it due to the amount, I asked. That was another weird little thing with the store. Checks over $200 had to have management verification or approval to be used. It was more of a formality than anything, and we tended to just check the ID and then initial them before heading back to whatever we were doing. Ah, no. Well, yes, but no. There's a problem, Dot says and hands me the check. I glance down at it and see it's drawn on a Florida bank and inhale sharply. I glance back at the lady who's giving me looks that could kill and back to Dot. So, what do we do? Dot asks. I shrug and tell her that I'll handle things and approach the lady who gives me one look of pure distaste before crossing her arms expectantly. Well? Princess asks and then points. Is my money good enough for you? It takes everything in my body not to just say no and walk away. Well, there's a problem with the check, I say, politely as I possibly can. What do you mean there's a problem? Princess practically yells. Well, I hate to say this, but we can't accept this form of payment from you. I start. I don't finish it though, as Princess yells, why the heck not? She then starts interrupting me every time I try to explain before I get a bit exasperated with her and say, would you please listen to me for a moment? I'm trying to explain the issue to you. It's not just a company policy, this is based on a state law. She looks ready to start in on another rant, and I take that pause as she draws in a breath to quickly explain. State law says that if I accept this and it fails to go through, regardless of if it's just a communication error, your bank's closed the day that they call for payment, or God forbid, it bounces, then a felony warrant for interstate fraud would be taken out on you, and you will be arrested and charged. The penalty for that being a fine of about $50,000 and a minimum of 5 years in state prison. Well, my money's good, she spits at me, figuratively, not literally. Be that as it may, I can't accept this, I say, standing my ground. Well, Wally World does, she retorts. They're able to instantly draw from the bank account. We don't have that system here. It doesn't hurt that they have stores in your home state, and we do not. Do you have any other method of paying? I ask again, through mildly clenched teeth, as she's getting on my nerves at this point. Princess just points at the check. That's it. So either take it, or I'll take my business elsewhere. I'm done with her at this point and turn to Dot. Go ahead and put that all in the back. We'll put it back on the shelves in the morning, I say, and hand her the check back. From the shocked look on her face, it's apparent she didn't expect me to actually stand my ground. Dot proceeds to grab up the items, doing as I instructed, while I hand Princess her check back. She just stands there, looking like a fish out of water for a bit, and then heads outside. I figure she's leaving. I was wrong. Probably 20 minutes pass when in comes a couple police officers. They head over to speak with Dot, who calls management back to her department. As I approach, I see that Princess is there, along with the officers. One of them approaches me and says that Princess had called back to report that I had stolen purchases she had made, taking them and putting them in the back after she had already paid for them. The officers wanted my side of the story, which I gave, within earshot of Princess. She ended up shooting herself in the foot about halfway through the officer talking to me as I was explaining the problem to him by screaming, "Tell him that he has to take my check. I want my purchases." The officer promptly turns on her and asks her to repeat that, and she does, before he says, "I thought you said you had already bought them." She blinks, realizing her mistake, but the damage is done. The cops are simply done with her. They instruct her to leave, making it very clear that everything I had previously said about the check was true, if oversimplified. She, however, refuses to leave, doubling down on the idea that she would force us to take her check. At this point, it's close to closing. I've got work to do, and this lady is giving me a pounding headache. I want her out of the store, pure and simple. So I opt to try one more thing. I turn to the officer and say, I don't want her in the store, and I don't want her ever coming back. The officer nods, understanding the wording here, and tells Princess in no uncertain terms that she's now trespassed from the store, and if she ever sets foot in again, she can and will be arrested. Princess eventually does leave, and the saga of dealing with her ends for about 6 months. It was a nice quiet time, right up to the point that her dour face once more darkened my store's doors. Speaking of checks, when was the last time you actually wrote a check? Please let us know. Oh, I love writing checks, but especially bouncing them. No, I don't need to see your bank statement. Hello, this occurred just yesterday in the midst of reopening. I am the manager on duty in this situation. Cashier calls me over because she has an angry customer wanting to return a $60 item and have 2 items price adjusted because after reopening, we took large discounts on most of the store. Her purchase was from before our company shut down. I approached with the intention of just giving her the few bucks difference, but realized I was walking into a stranger situation. Immediately, lady starts saying a previous manager had accused her of stealing in front of everyone and embarrassed her and said she needed a receipt to take the items back. I know there is no way in heck my sweet peer would have accused anyone. I noticed she has a photo of a receipt on her phone. She had come back in with a photo to try a second time. I felt happy I could resolve the situation and get her out. But no, doesn't end there. The photo only included the part of the receipt that showed a charge from her credit card. No date, transaction info, store location, etc. It was missing all the info I would need to pull up the transactions on my point of sale. Also, our point of sale does not allow a return to a credit card without this info. The software literally doesn't allow it, and there's no way to override. I explained to her that the info I need is missing and asked the lady if she had the bottom of the receipt. She said she doesn't have the receipt anymore, just the picture. How did she suddenly get this picture that she didn't have last time? I let her know I would be happy to give her a store credit for the item to return. She became more and more angry, saying that she had her bank statement and I need to put it back on her account. I apologized and explained that our point of sale won't allow me to do that, and there is no override. She demanded I call someone. I let her know that there is no one who can override it. I said I could attempt to look at my transactions for that day and see if I could pull it up for her, but our systems probably don't go back that far. As I leave to go do this, I hear my cashier ask if she doesn't mind stepping aside because there's literally a line to the back of my huge store and only 3 cashiers. People can't wait to shop after being cooped up, but staff is afraid to return. Crazy busy. Lady refuses and says, "No, I will wait right here for her." That's when I started getting upset at this lady. It's not everyone else's fault that you didn't keep your receipt. At this point, I actually believed there was some fraud going on. Like she may have already returned the items and just came in and found the item on the floor and was trying to return it again. Anyway, our systems did not go back that far. When I returned, she then demanded I call customer service right now for her because she has waited long enough. I let her know they were closed, but I would try in the morning. She then tried to leave the item with me so I could figure it out and then do a credit to her account so she wouldn't need to come in again. I then explained that we can't do remote refunds. The card needs to be physically inserted into our PIN pad. I dealt with her for almost 40 minutes with a huge line as we were closing. I even offered to let her cut the line next time. Just take your stupid store credit, keep your receipts, don't be so rude to hold up 150 other people. Don't accuse people of saying you stole. Don't call me a liar that I can't just refund your account. Where the heck did you get this photo if you don't have the receipt? Also, I noticed she hadn't even brought in the items she wanted price adjusted, but I got so caught up in trying to get her receipt info, I didn't even address it. Entitled mom steals my self-started college fund for sister's birthday. So, while growing up, I found myself having a horde of entitled parents, step and otherwise. My mom was great most times, but still felt entitled to my stuff as I was her kid. Onto the story. When I was a kid, after my twin brother got diagnosed with cancer, I became obsessed with saving money for my future. I figured if only one of us got to have one, I'd have to make it awesome enough for the both of us. He's in remission for 10 years next month, but at the time, I didn't know he'd live. This meant on every holiday, I found myself saving all the money I got because I was going to Harvard. I was going to have an awesome career and 0 student debt. I'd also mow lawns, weed gardens, as well as tutor and babysit kids when I got old enough. At the point this story happened, I had a happy $10K saved up. Not enough for all of college, but only $3,000 less than my total loans for college. I was also not allowed a bank account because of my age, and no one wanted on one with me. This meant I had roughly $10,000 in $100 bills. I'd trade smaller bills with my mom in my closet in a shoebox. My mom had my sister when I was 14, and she was born very early, 27 weeks, and spent most of her first year in and out of hospitals. So my mom has dedicated her life to making my sister's life the best it can be. One day, shortly after my sister was born, my mom asked if she could borrow some money, as they would be short on rent that month due to my mom and stepdad being at the hospital so much and having their savings depleted. I made her promise to pay me back and handed her $500 from the box and told her to put it back in said box when she was to pay me back. I checked 2 months later and she had paid me back. Cool. Then my sister's birthday rolled around. It was an amazing feat that she had made it to 1 year. My mom was ready to have a huge party. She rented out an entire aquarium because my little sister loved Ariel. She got my sister a custom-made dress that looked like Ariel's pink one from the movie, huge cake from the best local bakery, tower of presents, the whole 9 yards. Near the end of the party, she announced that she had taken notes from my thrifty saving and had started my sister a high-interest savings account with $1,000 at the moment, so when she turned 18, she'd be set. She also informed family members that any money she received as a gift today would go there. We weren't wealthy by any means, so I figured that my stepdad's parents, wealthy, old money, had paid for all of this. I was 15 at the time this happened, and with a permit from school, I was able to get a part-time job. I went to put my first check in my shoebox, and I had noticed it only had 1 envelope in it versus the 10 I had. I opened it up, expecting to count $1,000, but it was only $374, showing whoever took it had the foresight to put back what they didn't use. I had an absolute panic attack, like fell to the ground screaming and hyperventilating, crying, unable to speak, panic. That's when my brother came in. He wasn't sure what to do, so he got my mom. She got down on my level and soothed me to where I was able to communicate anything. She asked what happened, and here's the exchange roughly. We've got entitled mom, we've got me, we've got my twin brother. Entitled mom. Now, what happened? Everyone is all right? Are you okay? Me. Robbed! We got robbed! What do you mean, honey? I started crying again and I said, I only have $300. I noticed my mom became slightly less comforting and her tone became slightly nervous. Entitled mom. $300? Did you take it? She was referring to my brother. Brother. No, why would I steal from OP? I didn't even know she had money. Well, OP, I'm sure you lost it. No 15-year-old needs $10,000 anyways. We'll get you a bank account. That way, this won't happen again. Me. I didn't lose it. Well, you must have thrown it away then or something. That's when it suddenly clicked. How my sister had such an awesome party. Me. Mom, please tell me that you didn't take it for sister's birthday. My mom got defensive and started talking like, and this is the best way to describe it, a guilty Danganronpa character during the rhythm minigame. Mom. I would never. What would I even use it for? Your sister has had a hard life. You would be lucky if that's where your money went. You even got the money from us. Only part of it, but whatever. I remember distinctly putting $500 in your stupid box. Brother. Oh my God. Mom's a thief. I'm not the thief. I've given everything so you kids can have the best lives. I was at the hospital every night with you. I shaved your head when your hair started falling out. This continued and would be a lot of typing, but you get the gist. Me. Mom, you gave me that money because you guys didn't have rent. Twin brother. That's messed. Twin brother, out. This is between OP and I, woman to woman. She pushed my brother out and locked the door behind him. Entitled mom. Sweetie, one day when you become a mom, you'll understand that you'd do anything for your kids. When God gives you 2 sick kids who get better, you want to celebrate them. Don't you want your sister to have a good time? Doesn't she deserve to go to college one day? You're so smart and strong. You don't need help like the other two. You'll probably get a full ride anyway. I was in tears and too shaken up to talk. I just sobbed in the fetal position. She continued to talk at me for a while, but I don't remember much other than waking up there for school the next day with my comforter on me and twin brother sleeping in my bed with his blanket and pillow. I never got any money back, but after buying a small safe with that paycheck instead, saved up more and worked 2 jobs when I was 16 so I could have money. I ended up with about $5,000 after having to pay for my own car and insurance to get to and from work and a few other things. Have any of you guys ever had your parents take something that belonged to you? And what would you do if you were in this situation? Please let us know.
She did nothing wrong. If it belongs to my kids, it belongs to me.
Karen didn't like my answers to her questions, even though I was relentlessly honest. I'm telling you about one event, but I must have a retail face because I'm approached so often. I wear a suit at work. When I call in at any shop on the way home, I leave my jacket in the car, so I'm just wearing a shirt and a tie. I couldn't tell you how many times people assume I am staff. If they're civil, I'm civil. If they're struggling, I'm helpful. If they're rude, I have fun. The reason I remember this one is because I've said all of these things separately before, but this was the first time I got them all squeezed into one single interaction. It just went so perfectly. It will never happen again. I had called into a large supermarket to pick up birthday candles. I first saw the woman being very rude to another customer for no apparent reason. She was just impatient, and the other customer just wasn't moving fast enough for her liking, so she was insulting her. Let's call her Karen. As she turned, I saw the missile lock in her eyes as she spotted me. She galumped over my way. I decided to enjoy it and settled on being deadpan literal as a plan. I looked away. Karen.
Excuse me?
Me. Why? What have I done?
What?
She paused for a second, looking like a dog that had been shown a card trick, then angrily asked,
Can you help me?
Me. I couldn't possibly know. I don't know what you want.
Where do you keep your eyelash curlers?
Me. I don't keep them anywhere.
Yes, you do. I've seen them before.
I'm certain I don't. I've never owned any. My eyelashes manage to bend all on their own. I'm more than happy with the bendiness of my eyelashes.
Huh? What? No, idiot. I mean the shop. Where in the shop are the eyelash curlers?
I haven't got a clue.
Why not?
I refer you to my previous answer. I never use them. Karen.
Ah! Are you trying to be stupid?
Me. No, it's effortless.
This is insane. Are you going to find out where the eyelash curlers are? Or would you prefer that I speak to your manager?
Me. I'd say neither. But if I had to choose, I'd go for option B.
What? You want me to speak to your manager?
No. She shakes her head in an angry confusion and says,
You just said you did.
Me. No, I didn't. You asked me which I'd prefer. If I was offered a rectal exam or a slap in the face, I don't want either, but I'd prefer the second to the first. See how it works? She stood in silence for a few seconds with her mouth open and the deepest frown. She then built up to a shout with,
This is ridiculous.
Me. I completely agree.
Where is your manager?
I'm not exactly sure, but my guess would be at home with his family.
Ah! You're being stupid. Who supervises you here in this store right now?
She actually stamped her foot twice when she shouted, right now. Me. Nobody.
What? Why not?
Me. Because I don't need to be supervised. I haven't needed supervision in a shop since I was about 9 years old.
Oh my god, it's like talking to the wall.
I could see that her shouting had attracted a member of management. She was approaching quickly. Karen.
Why aren't you helping me?
Me. Why would I? I think I saw a slight hint of understanding spread across her puzzled face.
You do work here, don't you?
No.
Why didn't you say so?
You didn't ask me, until now. The manager arrived just as Karen shouted into my face.
You're a moron.
Manager to Karen. Madam, please lower your voice and stop talking like that. There are kids in the store. Manager to me. What's happening, sir? Me. I'm not really sure. This lady was being rude to another customer, then she approached me and started to interrogate me about my personal grooming habits. She wasn't happy with my answers and started to spit shout at me. Karen.
No, that's not true. I was shouting because I thought he worked here.
Manager. Whether he was an employee or not, you can't talk like that. You can't treat customers or staff like this. We do not tolerate it.
It's not my fault he's an idiot. If he had...
She was interrupted by the manager. Please stop shouting. The manager pressed transmit on her radio and said, Security, urgent, code 4, aisle 14. Manager to me. Are you okay, sir? Yes, I'm fine. I just needed birthday candles. Could you tell me where they are? Karen.
What the heck is going on?
Manager to Karen. Stop shouting. If I have to warn you again, you will have to leave the store. Manager to me. They're on aisle 22. Me. Okay, thank you. I started to walk away. Meanwhile, Karen was still shouting. 2 security staff turned the corner and passed me on their way to Karen. I could hear her shouting for another 30 seconds. The next time I saw Karen, I was standing at the self-checkout. She was being followed out of the store by security staff. She was complaining into her phone, loudly but unclearly, about the shop, the staff, and some moron, as she left empty-handed. Do you think that moron was me? I was wishing so hard for her to look left and see me, but she didn't. If she had shouted at me, regardless of what she said, I was going to raise my little box of candles and say, Yes, thanks, I found them. The whole thing was so funny, I almost broke and nearly started laughing when she stamped her foot in time with,
Right now!
I've been mistaken for staff dozens of times, but I've never had it go so perfectly. Probably never will. Don't expect a sequel. Have any of you ever played a trick on a Karen? And if you haven't, would you if you had the chance? Please let us know.
I'll be the one playing the tricks around here.
Oh, come on. Won't be taught by a girl. So he got fired. So, I used to work for my grandparents on an oil farm in Texas. I was 17, freshly graduated from high school, and had moved from the Midwest to Texas to live with my grandparents and work on the oil farm they worked for, doing some easy data entry. The building was essentially a 10 building on the job site where my grandma and I, the only 2 office workers besides my grandfather, who was the foreman, worked. Basically, when the new hires would come in that had missed the initial hiring round, I was the one that would make sure all their paperwork was in order and that they had all of their OSHA classes finished. And if any safety training hadn't been done, I would just put in the VHS tape and confirm on a written copy that they had finished it under my instruction. This went on for 2 months and with no issues until one fateful day, a regular Florida man, record and all, came in as a new hire and came to my office to finish his new hire paperwork. Once he was in my office, I found he had no safety training to speak of, and I informed him his next day or 2 would be spent in my office watching safety videos. All of this was paid, of course. He immediately flew into a rage, screaming about how he wouldn't have some girl teaching him how to do his job, which again, I was a 17-year-old female. At the time, I now identify as non-binary, and was only going through company standards and OSHA rules with him. I went to my grandfather, who was my boss at the time, obviously very confused and uncomfortable and unsure of how I should proceed. To which my grandfather said, "You want to fire him?" Cue my excitement. My grandfather follows me to my office, and I, as a 17-year-old, get to fire this grown man sitting in front of me. I start directing him to gather his things and leave, and he starts up a huge fit, yelling at me before he noticed my grandfather standing in the door with his gun holstered on his hip. My grandfather usually kept this locked in his safe on the ground or in his truck. I hadn't realized until after he had pulled it out just for me, and very quietly then he got up and left. The most satisfying moment of my life. Have you ever had someone mistreat you like this? And if so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
I get mistreated by cashiers everywhere I go, so I talk to the managers.
Entitled mother wanted my 1,500 euro PC build for her son. So basically, I am a 20-year-old percussionist, and I'm getting myself into digital music. I'm just a newbie, but I wanted to try it out. I had the possibility of buying myself a rather high-end gaming PC since I've worked a bit and I had some money to spare. I'm also a bit of a gamer. Big lie, I'm a total gamer. So I decided to mix digital music and gaming and build a machine that could help me with both. Now, here's where the choosing beggar comes in. I live in a condo where my neighbors are a family of 3 with a kid who's around 10 or 11. I've talked with them quite a lot, and I've helped their son choose his first personal computer 2 years ago. But since now Warzone came out, his PC wasn't good enough and he needed a new one. His mother, the choosing beggar, knew that I was building a computer and decided to knock on my door this morning. Here's the conversation.
Hey, I was just looking for you. you're building a new computer, are you?
Me. Yes? Why?
Oh, my kid says that his isn't enough, and I was wondering if you could help him out.
Me. Great, I can suggest some parts and help him build one. Just tell me what's the budget. Notice that I wouldn't ask for money since he's just a kid and our families are in good terms. Choosing beggar.
Oh, here's the problem. There's no budget.
Me. I can spend how much I want on his configuration?
No, I was thinking that you should just give him the one you have now. You're too old for games anyway, aren't you?
I was still building the computer at this time, and I couldn't believe what words had just left her mouth. Me. Why should I? I'm building this PC for myself, with my money. Here's where a lot of Redditors helped me in my last post, and my social anxiety didn't kick in. Me again. I will not give your kid anything. Choosing beggar.
But why? You're in university now. You don't have time to play games.
Me. You don't know how much free time I have, and that's none of your business.
Oh, come on. You're an adult now. Adults don't play video games.
Adults do play video games. And again, what I do with my free time is none of your business.
You know you're never going to get a girlfriend like this. Girls don't go after men who play video games.
Me. Are you for real? Her tone was strangely kind at this moment, and it just made me angrier.
Of course. Just give it to kid. He's still a kid and he needs it.
Me. Good afternoon, choosing beggar. At this point, I was so angry that I wanted to punch this jerk in the face, but I just slammed my front door shut and walked back to building my PC. Basically, this lady just wanted me to give my €1,500 PC to her kid because I'm an adult and I need a girlfriend. I mean, I am single right now, but I firmly believe that gaming is not the cause of that. I want to thank the Redditors that commented on my last post here, the one about entitled mom wanting my drum set, the words about my social anxiety, and on how to act in certain situations really helped me out this time, and I was able to react in a more calm and collected way, even though I was angry as heck. Really, thank you. Speaking of video games, do you like video games? And if so, what's your favorite video game of all time? We would love to hear from you.
My son loves Fortnite
and he plays it on his Nintendo Switch. How to deal with a rude Karen like a pro. One thing you need to know is I have some severe anxiety issues, but this story happened maybe 6 or 7 years ago before I developed the problem, so I was a bit more brazen back then. Anyway, I was shopping at this big blue store famous for their selection of Karens when I passed by this sweet little old lady. She asked me to grab a case of soda off of the top shelf. This is nothing new because I'm 6'6", and people ask me to do a lot of stuff like this. I also live life by the golden rule you are taught as a kid. Treat those how you want to be treated. I got the soda for the sweet old lady and asked her if she needed any more help. She declined and thanked me, so I started to walk away to grab the other things on my list. As I was walking down the aisle, looking at my list, trying to decide where I should head to next, I heard 2 words shouted at presumably me.
You boy!
I look up and see this abomination of a Karen sneering at me. She had the classic haircut, probably weighed more than me, as an already overweight, super tall giant in leopard print leggings and a shirt that she was probably 3 sizes too big for. She had only said 2 words to me, and I already didn't like her. Remember how I said I live by the golden rule? Well, that works both ways, and since she was rude out of the gate, that must mean she wants to be treated rudely also. I just wasn't exactly sure how to be rude to her yet.
Get that soda off the top shelf for me, now! I'm in a hurry,
she said to me while her volume was turned up to 11. So I said, I don't work here. If you want me to help you, I'm gonna need to hear a please first.
She shrieked. Obviously you work here. I just saw you help that other jerk.
Wow, just wow. Now she insulted that sweet old lady after being rude to me. Then I decided what I would do, based entirely off of what would be the funniest thing to do. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Which soda did you want again? She pointed aggressively at a case of Fresca on the very top shelf. I grabbed the case off the shelf and went to hand it to her. She muttered, "Finally." Right before she grabbed it from me, I quickly put it back on the top shelf, and without looking at her, just slowly walked away to do the rest of my shopping. She shrieked a bit about finding my manager and getting me fired, but I was just giggling to myself. I ended up taking my sweet time shopping, hoping she would show up with a manager, just so she would embarrass herself more, but I never saw her again. I wonder how her family reacted to hearing the story of the rude idiot Walmart employee she encountered that day. Speaking of soda, what's your favorite soda of all time? Please let us know.
I could really go for a Diet Dr. Thunder right now.
Temp principal demands me to shave my beard. Has it backfire on him? It's high school, and all us kids are returning from our 2-week off vacation. Sure enough, we have an assembly in the PE building. We all go in, and I look to the front to see the vice principal and our main attraction of this story. From here on out, I will refer to him as Professor. Why, you may ask? Well, to put it lightly, if he didn't fit the stereotypical arrogant, smug, glasses down nose, uptight professor from a high-end school, then I don't know what is. Even his own stance had this, "I am so much smarter than all of you combined" matter. As all us kids find a place to sit, the vice principal gets our attention. He lets us know that Professor will be our temporary principal for 3 months while our own principal would be away, so we should welcome him to our school. Then it was the professor's turn. He even spoke down to us. "Thank you, Vice Principal. While I am new to this school, I am from this other school. As I expect nothing but the best from them, I expect the same from you." In case anyone is wondering, the school he came from has one of the worst reputations in our region. So, why he walked around like he won all the Nobel Prizes was beyond me. We were shortly dismissed. Fast forward to lunchtime, and I am in my usual hangout area with my friends. I should point out that I had a well-trimmed beard at the time. I'll explain later why this is important, as I am just chatting away when I see Professor walking towards us. I see him and thought, I should welcome him. So that's what I did. Me. "Hi, Professor." "Professor." "Have a shave." He didn't even look at me. It wasn't even a request. It was an order. A sharp, bitter order. He just kept on walking like he owned the place while I just stood there, shocked, knowing in that moment that I was going to be in a world of hurt with him. The next day, my name gets called over the loudspeaker to go to the front office. Sure enough, I do. There, I get ushered to the principal's office, where Professor is standing there. He just points to his seat, and I sit down. As I do, he starts. "You will shave!" Again, in that sharp, bitter order tone. No? "You will shave!" Me, in a jerk way. "No." Professor slamming his hands on the table. "I told you to shave, so you will have a shave!" That's still a no. Professor collecting his stance, but still firm. "It's against school policy to have any kind of facial hair, so you will shave." I smile like the Cheshire Cat. Now, I promised you why I had a beard, and in this short intermission, will show why I was smiling. You see, this was my one real time I was ever rebellious in my school years, and that I didn't know the school policy apart the basics. This little line was used on me, prior of him, by the vice principal and a fellow teacher. What I responded with was the same I gave to Professor and to the vice principal prior. Prove it. Show me where it says in the school policy that no one can have any facial hair. When you do, I will gladly shave mine off, and I expect that you will enforce the policy on yourself. He had a beard also. The other male teachers, and some of the ladies too. Oh, I can be a jerk when I choose to be, or want to, or just in general. Professor quickly backpedaling in his statement. "The policy is for students." Me, still being a smarty. "It's school policy, Professor. Therefore, the teachers must also follow it too." Professor is glaring at me, rage in his eyes, clearly never been spoken to by a student. "If you do not shave, you will get detention." I smile yet again. Why? The school I went to was in a small town, surrounded by other small towns. I lived in one said small town that was a 30-minute drive away. My only way to and from is one of the school buses. My mother, before I even started high school, told me that if I got detention, she by no means would pick me up. I took that to heart. Me looking at the phone. You want to dial, or shall I? Professor looked, taking back slightly, but quickly got back to his normal self and got my mother's number. The two talk as I am just watching his face go from determination to confusion to anger to confusion again and then defeat. He hangs up. Turning to me, furious, he knows I know full well what my mother said to him. Then he gets an idea. You won't get detention, but for the next week, you will get in-school detention. I was confused, as I never heard of such a thing. So I asked him what it was. He told me that next week, this was on a Friday, the start of second period, recess, third and fourth period, I would be placed into detention where he expected me to do my schoolwork. I look at him, noticing the obvious flaw in his so-called genius plan. He was punishing me by giving me free time. Professor smugly. Now, I will give you 3 days if you shave. So, what do you say? I stand up. I'll see you next week, Professor. Monday comes, and sure enough, I go to my in-school detention, which was just in a small room next to the front office and the principal's office that was used for parent and teacher meetings. I go in and spend my time just doodling on the whiteboard as I came to realize that I wasn't being supervised during my whole time in there. Tuesday, I didn't even bring any of my schoolwork, just some drawing books and my Game Boy. As I sat in the front office waiting area, 2 students see me. Student 1. Hey OP, what are you doing here? Oh, I got in-school detention. In-school detention? I then explained what it was, which both of them just laughed by how sheer stupid it was. Wednesday and I have 2 new inmates. Who are they? Student 1 and Student 2. Thursday we had 2 more. By Friday, there were 7 of us. After my time was up, I get called to the principal's office again, and there's Professor, all smug-like. So, did we learn our lesson? Me, with the most straightest of faces. Nope. Professor, now furious. Get out! I shrugged and left. Needless to say, he didn't bother me after that. My little story went wild through the school, as more and more kids were getting in-school detention because of him. He soon stopped doing it after a month because the students that were getting it, to what I can recall, was in their double digits. I was glad when he left. So here I am, in my 30s, and yes, I still have a beard. Now if you like this, do let me know, and if you want to hear more, I got 2 more stories. Mr. Grumpy and the Legend, the Myth and the Horror of the Red Dragon. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.